Chapter 888. You can talk. Su Fong was surprised. The tree demon was very presumptuous. This king has been born here for hundreds of thousands of years. He has devoured the essence of heaven and earth and is about to shed his shell and transform. Talking is child's play. If you dare to come closer, this king will turn you into ashes. Can't you see that there are a lot of bones here? I know. Your ability is to attack at close range, not from a distance. You can't do anything to me, right? Suddenly, Su Fong walked out openly, 100 meters away from the tree demon. Needless to say, he had guessed correctly. The tree demon wanted to attack, but the wooden thorns had just condensed and did not attack him. So what? You're brave, so come and take a look, the tree demon shouted. At this moment, Su Fong also showed a gloomy expression. Hee, I have a way to deal with you. There's no one around. I want you to cry for help. Bragging. You're just a low-level human. Who do you think you are? I'm not bragging. You'll know soon enough. I'll make you my strength. In order to obtain so many Tao artifacts and treasures, the tree demon had no chance of success. Originally, it was impossible for him to deal with the tree demon and obtain the treasure. However, for some reason, Su Fong actually laughed out loud and looked extremely confident. You really have a way. Even Law, who was in the blood jade, was puzzled. Su Fong chuckled and suddenly used the flaming cloud wings to float in the air in front of the tree demon. A mirror appeared in his right hand. Bang! A red light suddenly swept toward the tree demon. A mere Dharma treasure can deal with this king. You're underestimating this king. The tree demon was furious, and the surrounding ground shook. A large number of tree roots shook out from the ground, floating like ghost claws. Then, they waved and twisted together, blasting toward the red light. However, the red light was not the power of an ordinary Dharma treasure. Under the fierce attack of the tree shadows, it was not affected at all. It immediately touched the tree demon and then rolled up, enveloping the tree demon. The tree demon suddenly quieted down. Those tree roots also lost control and froze in midair. The tree demon panicked in the red light. But it was too late. No one knew how powerful a primordial chaos sacred was. Su Fong's right hand pressed down slightly, and a red flame instantly spread out around the demon tree. Before it could burn much, the entire demon tree trembled, and its demonic chi collapsed. Powerful. A primordial chaos sacred was indeed powerful. The tree demon that had killed countless people was inferior to an ant in front of it. This was Su Fong's luck. Why? The tree demon was very powerful. Su Fong did not have the strength to deal with it, but he did not expect the tree demon to be unable to move quickly. This was its weakness. The easiest target for a primordial chaos age to deal with was a motionless demon like the tree demon. The tree demon trembled fiercely, and its demonic aura disappeared layer by layer. The entire tree crown also began to shrink. The tree demon began to beg for mercy. Spare me, exalted immortal. You've killed so many humans. How could you have never thought that the heavens would let you off so easily? Su Fong looked like a peerless war god. His aura surged as he pressed down with his right hand. Whoosh! At this moment, the surroundings of the treant burst into flames, burning the treant until it trembled with sizzling sounds. Not long after, the treant no longer struggled, because its consciousness had already been shattered. It was scared to death by the supreme divine might of the ancient mirror. What kind of treasure is this? Law's astonishment and curiosity came from deep within his body. Su Fong activated the primordial chaos sacred, and it floated in front of the blood jade in his body. What a strange mirror! Law, who was inside the blood jade, was attracted by the ancient primordial chaos sacred. Suddenly, Law revealed a shocked expression. So this is a divine artifact. A divine artifact, a supreme divine artifact that surpasses all Tao artifacts. It really was a divine artifact. Su Fong felt that Law's origin was extraordinary. He could tell at a glance that the ancient mirror was a divine artifact. He couldn't help but laugh. Hee hee, This is a divine artifact. Although I don't know what kind of treasure it is, its ability is to suppress the big goblin. It just hasn't been used against immortals yet. Such a heaven-defying treasure should be kept well. Don't show it to others too often. Although there are divine artifacts in the outside world, they are all ordinary existences. This divine artifact of yours is the best I've ever seen. It must have an extraordinary origin. Once it appears in the outside world, I reckon countless outside worlds will be stirred up by it. Naturally, I can't let such a treasure spread. He focused on the tree demon again. The tree demon was no longer a threat. He activated the primordial chaos sacred, and all the red light disappeared. He quickly arrived in front of the tree demon. The tree demon had shrunk by half. Some of its corpses were scattered on the ground. He activated the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. No matter what kind of treasure it was, he quickly absorbed it. Flying swords, sabers, halberds, storage rings, and armor were all absorbed into the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. As expected, he obtained over 100 treasures. At this time, he looked at the tree demon and activated a gate. His wood elemental divine might circled above the tree demon. Then, like Hercules, he began to move mountains and rivers. To the ground shook, and the surrounding rocks began to collapse. The tree demon's body began to be pulled out of the ground bit by bit and absorbed by the gate. After 2 hours, he finally pulled the tree demon out of the ground. When he looked at the tree hole again, he saw a bottomless abyss below. It seemed that the tree demon grew in the air of some underground space. Whoosh, just as he relaxed and was about to collect the treasures and absorb the tree demon's energy, a cold wind suddenly blew out. Unexpectedly, a gust of cold wind blew out from the deep hole under the demon tree, like a gust of cold steam suddenly exploding in the air. Su Fang didn't have time to react. Along with the explosion, a large amount of rocks, materials, and soil were sucked into the bottomless abyss. You were too careless. This is an undercurrent that often appears in danger zones. Su Fang felt the world turn upside down. He was seeing stars. How would I know that this was an undercurrent? Su Fang spat out a mouthful of saliva. Now, he also wanted to find medicine for regret. Boom, boom. He still didn't know where the undercurrent was going to take him. Suddenly, some rocks and debris fell to the ground, causing Su Fang's body to crack and shatter. His consciousness was very clear, but it was just his body. It was probably blown into a hornet's nest by a large amount of materials and rocks. Activating his great perfection ability, he found that this was a space-time space full of cold air and familiar shackles on the primordial spirit and true chi. Most of his body was buried in ruins. Except for his chest, the rest of his body was smashed into meat paste. His bones were almost fractured. If it was an ordinary immortal, they would have been smashed to death. It's not easy for you to survive. Deep inside his body, Law said indifferently, "This is the benefit of having a great perfection body." Of course, even an ordinary great perfection body wouldn't be as strong as yours. I guess your body has fused with other special powers to be able to survive under this kind of burial. I just need to slowly recover. It will probably take less than half a month. Now, Su Fang wasn't in a hurry. He just let himself lie in the ruins and then began to swallow immortal pills. Starting from the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, he began to absorb the essence of the monster tree. Almost all of it poured into the dragon-taming wood's left arm first. Immortal pills. He didn't lack them now. He had so many immortal pills in his storage rings and treasures. His body began to rapidly regenerate and repair itself. During this time, Su Fang also checked the surrounding space. He found that this was a space-time ruin formed by various kinds of collapse. There were no rocks around, but a kind of enchantment. It seemed to be a space-time space. He asked Law, and it turned out that the undercurrent in the danger zone came from the movement of the Earth in the depths of the danger zone. It was formed by the aura ejected from the space-time inside. Such a space-time undercurrent space was actually a natural crack formed under the danger zone or an underground canyon. Over time, such canyons and cracks would form a natural enchantment under the power of nature, which was also a natural aura field. It would form a space-time undercurrent. In other words, he was still in the soul capital danger zone, just a certain space under the earth. He was too unlucky. According to law, the tree demon lived between the undercurrent and the earth, absorbing the special power of the two space-time to live. It was the door to the undercurrent space. Once it was gone, it would eject the undercurrent. Half a month later, the lower half of his body completed its self-repair as scheduled. With a few rumbles, he floated up from the ruins. Everything around him was cold, and from time to time, there would be an astonishing undercurrent rolling through the air. Law said in his body, "If you want to leave here, you have to find a weaker space-time or a field. You can leave from there. However, there are also all kinds of dangers in the undercurrent space. No one knows what will happen in the next second. You can first look for the treasures left behind by the fallen in the ruins. Usually, in this kind of undercurrent space, there are a lot of buried treasures. Some immortals even come here to look for treasures. The shackles are too amazing. Su Fong could only walk. According to law, he went deep into the ruins to look for treasures. Needless to say, he really found treasures in some bones. And there were also demon immortal corpses. It seemed that they were also involved in the undercurrent and smashed to death. Su Fong now understood that he was lucky to be able to survive. He found a lot of corpses in succession. This corpse doesn't seem to have died for long. The robe is not bad, but most of it has been smashed. At this moment, he found 2 more corpses. One of them was a little lower and had already rotted, but the one on top didn't seem to have died for long. He was attracted by the robe that the corpse was wearing. This robe was actually the color of the starry sky, and there were a lot of star patterns flickering on it. Extraordinary. There must be treasures. Su Fong released his control power and moved the ruins on the corpse. Who knew that as soon as his control power touched the corpse, the starry sky robe suddenly shook. Su Fong was so scared that he took a step back. Could it be that this person didn't die? When he was at a loss, the corpse suddenly condensed into a faint figure. He could see the face. It was a man in a starry sky robe who was less than 30 years old. It turned out to be a wisp of primordial spirit. Patting his chest, Su Fong approached this figure's primordial spirit. "My name is Huangfu Inghua, a disciple of the 9 heavenly astral palace. First, I was heavily injured by my fellow sect members, and when I was fleeing, I was ambushed by an undercurrent. In the end, my body and soul were destroyed. I had to use my last bit of strength to preserve my life. Since I was able to meet you at the last moment, it means that we are fated. I hope that you can accept my Tao imprint and become a disciple of the 9 heavenly astral palace. After that, you can go and meet my fellow sect members and tell them about my encounters here. If you are willing, you can go to the 9 heavenly astral palace in the future. I'm just a cultivator passing by." Although he was surprised, Su Fong was still very calm in front of this primordial spirit. What constellation of 9 heavens? What Huangfu Inghua? His goal was only to obtain the purple cloud Dharma spirit. Huangfu Inghua said weakly, "It seems that you don't know about the constellation of 9 heavens. This is a corner of the Yuan Lu Great World. You should know about my existence." "Is that so? A very powerful cultivation sect?" Su Fong was curious. Chapter 889. Huangfu Huaying's weak, nascent divinity trembled slightly. From his expression, it was clear that he felt that everyone should know about the constellation of 9 heavens. He looked at Su Fong in astonishment. The constellation of 9 heavens is not in the Yuan Fortune Ocean world, nor is it in any of the major planes of existence. It is in between the Yuan Fortune Ocean world and the immortal Ao Great World, in the ruins of space-time. Among the countless great worlds, the constellation of 9 heavens stands at the peak of existence. Every disciple is a peerless genius. Our sect's 9 heavens stars minor incantation is also a peerless energy art that everyone knows about. Master, this person is right. The constellation of 9 heavens is indeed a major power. At this moment, Su Fong was also communicating with the mini-cosmos immortal kettle. The White Cloud Immortal Palace is one of the strongest powers in the Yuan Fortune Great World. However, when compared to the constellation of 9 heavens, it is still slightly lacking. The constellation of nine heavens has been around for countless years and has millions of immortals. Its Taoist right is not in any of the major worlds, but in the ruins of space-time outside of space-time. Even the great Qian immortal world, everyone knows about it. This is an existence that surpasses the white cloud immortal palace. Master, you can't let this opportunity go to waste. It really has an extraordinary background. Su Fong was really tempted. What do you think, young man? This is my last wish before I die. It can also fulfill you. In the future, your path of cultivation will be even brighter. Huangfu Huaying's nascent divinity said urgently. Clearly, there was not much time left. Su Fong was still calm. In the face of such a heaven-sent opportunity, he was not anxious at all. I just want to know one thing. Is the constellation of nine heavens above the immortal AO great world? That's a good question. How do you want me to answer? Answer truthfully. The immortal AO great world is a macro world with countless immortals and countless forces. It also has some powerful forces, especially the sector lord of the macro world, who is extremely powerful. If we're talking about overall strength, my nine-heaven star palace is naturally a little weaker than the macro world. However, in terms of influence and cultivation, my nine-heaven star palace has the upper hand. Let me give you an example. If those forces in the immortal AO great world don't unite, they won't be able to match up to my Tao sect. However, if they unite, their overall strength will surpass my Tao sect. But so what? My Tao sect is located in the depths of time and space, free and unfettered. Then I agree. After listening, Su Fong nodded decisively. You're truly unfathomable. Tell me your name. Su. Okay. Huangfu Huaying's primordial spirit suddenly released a slightly strong luster. He put his palms together and extracted a large amount of essence from his body. He began to form seals. I, Huangfu Huaying, have cultivated for 500,000 years. I was born in the constellation of nine heavens since I was young. I absorbed the power of the stars and cultivated the Tao of the stars. However, life is unpredictable, and I was persecuted by my peers. Fortunately, the Tao of heaven protected me and allowed me to obtain the Tao seal inheritor Su Fong when my Tao life was about to end. I used my entire life strength to cultivate the Tao seal and passed it to Su Fong. From then on, I am a member of the constellation of nine heavens. Buzz. He separated his palms and flicked his fingers. From Huangfu Huaying's palms, a fist-sized Xian Guang flew out. His primordial spirit began to dissipate. He left behind a final sentence. I left behind a treasure in the Tao seal to compete with my peers. It can be considered a meeting gift. I did not expect that I, Huangfu Huaying, would eventually become a guide for others to cultivate. Peng. After saying this sentence, his primordial spirit completely collapsed and disappeared. The Xian Guang came in front of Su Fong. Su Fong was still quite cautious. He released his perception to see if the Xian Guang was dangerous. This is the constellation of nine heavens. Perhaps it was the fusion of ancient times. Su Fong was sensing the aura of the Xian Guang, and Law, who was in the blood jade, also said, it's indeed not simple. The cultivation technique it cultivates contains the essence of the world. It seems that in this era of immortal cultivation, the constellation of nine heavens is indeed a force. Su Fong, who was sensing the Xian Guang, heard Law's words and was suddenly moved. Your Excellency, do you also think that the end of immortal cultivation is the cultivation world? What do you think? It seems that you know what power cultivators really want to cultivate in the lower realm. You are only immortal, but you have such an amazing world essence. Law said, you must have cultivated a lot of the world's origin power in the small world. I actually stumbled upon it by accident. I learned that the ultimate peak of cultivation for cultivators is the world of stars. The depths of the sky is the goal of cultivators. You are very lucky to be able to confirm it early and embark on the true meaning of cultivation. Other immortals are far from being able to understand this. I think the constellation of nine heavens is not simple either. They use this kind of Tao seal to find disciples and successors in the world. This kind of method of accepting disciples is indeed rare. It also shows that the constellation of 9 heavens is extraordinary. I also think that you should go to this forest to cultivate. It'll be of great help to you. Let's talk about it later. After confirming that there was no problem with the Tao seal, he first sealed this treasure in his origin golden core. According to Huangfu Yinghua's last words, there was another treasure inside. This treasure should be pretty good. Creak. Huangfu Yinghua's corpse began to spontaneously combust. In just half an incense stick's time, the corpse turned into a pile of ashes and disappeared with the ruins under the undercurrent. Nothing was left behind. He wanted to set up a grave for this person, but then he thought better of it. From a moment a cultivator stepped onto the path of cultivation, they treated themselves as a pile of rotten bones. Being scattered in nature was also a good place to belong. It was 10,000 times better than being eaten by the big goblin and demons. Su Fong began to search forward again. His senses must have been severely shackled in the undercurrent space and lost the advantage of his senses. More than 10 immortals suddenly flew in front of him, and he only discovered them when they were almost face to face. Whoosh! When these immortals saw Su Fong, they looked at each other. Then, one of the young men nodded, and another immortal came in front of Su Fong. In such a dangerous space, I can still meet such a group of cultivators. These people, this time, he really felt a strong sense of helplessness. This immortal stood in front of Su Fong like a wall. Let me ask you a question. If you answer it well, I can give you some good benefits. How could Su Fong choose? He nodded repeatedly. In the end, this person took out a portrait. It was a picture scroll condensed with immortal patterns. It was a man in a starry robe. It was the Huangfu Huaying that Su Fong had met before. The immortal asked, "This person is an evil cultivator. He killed many people, including our companions. He seems to have escaped into this space. Have you seen this person before?" Su Fong hurriedly bowed. "No, I have not. I was lucky to be able to survive here. Only then did I meet all of you supreme immortals. I have to thank you for your reminder. If I had really seen this person, I would have been able to escape." What a waste of time. The immortal jumped up unhappily, looking for Huangfu Huaying and saying that he is an evil cultivator. There is only one possibility. Among these people, one of them must be the one who killed Huangfu Huaying. He is also an immortal from the constellation of 9 heavens. Su Fong hurriedly used his perfect hearing. Fortunately, at this distance, he could hear everything clearly. After a while, the young immortal in the middle said, "It's fine if you haven't seen him. Huangfu Huaying was seriously injured by me. He might have been buried in the depths of the ruins. The chances of him being alive are not high. Immortal supremacy, should we continue searching?" The immortal who was talking to Su Fong asked fearfully. "Of course, we can't let go of any possibility. After searching the last ruins, immediately turn back and kill all the immortals you met before. Don't leave anyone alive." Yes, they heard a strong, killing intent. More than a dozen immortals slowly flew above Su Fong. They were all experts, not virtual immortals. That was close. When the immortals disappeared, Su Fong only had one thought: run for his life and leave this undercurrent space as soon as possible. Otherwise, if these people came back, there would only be one outcome. They would be silenced. Killing each other in the constellation of 9 heavens was probably not a small matter in the constellation of 9 heavens. This person had to confirm that Huangfu Huaying had died. Otherwise, he would not be at ease. Rustle, he raised his speed to the maximum and stopped searching for treasures. Instead, he flew towards the strange natural gathering place at the edge, ignoring the energy consumption caused by the shackles. At this moment, Law, who was inside the blood jade, said leisurely, "You were able to meet this Huangfu Huaying at the right time. You just met him, and someone else came looking for you. This is fate that allowed you to meet this Huangfu Huaying. I think you will definitely cultivate in the constellation of 9 heavens in the future. Sir, you believe in fate." Finally, there was someone who spoke. Su Fong had a good impression of Law. Moreover, Although Law was mysterious and powerful, at least in his current state, he could not bring any danger to Su Fong. Law was knowledgeable and had a different view on everything. People had to interact with people who were stronger and more outstanding than them. Only then would they grow. Fate, you might think that it is illusory, but fate does exist. Moreover, it is rumored that there are people who cultivate fate techniques that can capture the secrets of the heavens. This world will not let you meet a person or a treasure for free. There is always a connection. In that case, it is also fate that you and I can meet. Of course, it is fate that you and I know each other. You may not believe it, but I firmly believe it. I am a body refiner. You're also a body refiner. We both have a body refiner, and we both pursue the pinnacle of the body refiner. Just this point alone shows that fate made you and I walk together and meet in the Abyss Valley. And you, Huangfu Huaying, and the constellation of 9 heavens are also the same. Maybe I will know in the future. Although it was just a simple conversation, Su Fong felt a sense of comfort surging into his body, especially in such a dangerous undercurrent space. After a few hours, he finally arrived in front of the undercurrent space barrier. It was indeed a familiar natural barrier. It felt like a heavenly curtain that sealed the space alone, activating the power of the world. With the world fragment as the main force, Su Fong could not use anything around him. At this moment, Su Fong used his true ability. The power of the world fragment poured into his body. Inside the blood jade, Law was shocked. You actually have a world fragment. Hee, I got it by accident in a small world. Fuse it. His palms immediately entered the strange natural barrier. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A world light constantly poured into the natural barrier. It was like a stone falling into a calm, ancient well. It set off ripples in the barrier in front of Su Fong. With a majestic shake, Su Fong's entire body disappeared from the natural barrier. Buzz. Like passing through a door, he flashed through the void. In front of him was an abyss that constantly fell from the darkness. This was a sudden abyss in the depths of a danger zone. It was so deep that he couldn't see the bottom. It was as if he was in the deepest part of the abyss. Behind him was a grayish-white mass of gas. It was not an ordinary mass of gas, but the undercurrent space. Who would have thought that such a place would have such an astonishing world? Su Fong once again raised his speed to the limit and fled to the top of the abyss. Chapter 890. Since he had left the undercurrent space, it was impossible for Su Fong to fly freely in the abyss with his current cultivation. He ran through the air, constantly leaving the abyss. However, there was no light above him. Clearly, the exit was not in this direction. He had no choice but to fly deeper into the abyss in search of the exit. That young cultivator hiding his identity should be the expert from the constellation of 9 heavens who killed Huangfu Yinghua. This person is so meticulous. Who would know that he killed Huangfu Yinghua? After flying for half a day, Su Fong was exhausted. His true qi was exhausted. Apart from his 9 yang meridians, his golden core origin's energy had already begun to deplete. At this moment, he was still searching for the exit. Flying deep into the abyss, Su Fongda's perfect senses were affected by many shackles. However, he could still sense the aura in the air. He had to be careful with every step. Suddenly, he slowed down and stared at the dark abyss in front of him. Demonic qi. From a moist, dark abyss in front of him, Su Fong felt an evil aura that he was very familiar with. It was demonic true qi. It was also mixed with blood. There was most likely a demonic cultivator in the abyss ahead. Thinking about it, he was worried that he would be discovered. He summoned the purple wind monster and hid in its mouth. Then, he followed the purple wind monster slowly along the cold cliff and crossed the dark abyss ahead. It turned out that his choice was very correct. In a cave deep in the abyss, there were 7 black-robed demonic cultivators. They were using a blood cauldron to cook a few righteous cultivators. These demonic cultivators looked very familiar to him. They were true demons. They were the supreme, true demons that every demonic cultivator in the lower realm wanted to become. However, these true demons were somewhat different from the true demons of the small world. Their faces were more ferocious, especially their mouths with long fangs. In addition, they had black horns on their heads and two pointed ears. They looked like human-shaped vampire bats. Heavenly demons. These demons were not supreme, true demons, but heavenly demons that were even more powerful than true demons. It's a pity that I'm not a match for one of these people. Otherwise, if I killed one, the blood wraith true demon would devour it and turn it into a blood wraith heavenly demon. He could not provoke them. Fortunately, the purple wind monster was a big goblin and did not have the aura of a human. Even if these heavenly demons discovered it, they would not pay much attention to a small big goblin. Several heavenly devils were cooking the righteous cultivators. The blood cauldron was boiling. These devils were probably here to capture righteous cultivators and hide them in the depths of the soul capital to cultivate their devilish arts. Hiss! A monster exuding devil chi suddenly stood half of its body beside the rocks of several devil Dao experts. Feed! What a terrifying food! One of the demons looked up at the stone wall, following Shur's movements, and saw the purple wind monster's tail crawling through the crack in the stone wall. He patted Shur's head. A big goblin. Next time we catch a righteous cultivator, I'll let you eat your fill. Scavenger obediently squatted down, like a big black lizard monster with only a mouth. What a terrifying food. It doesn't look simple, but it can detect demonic aura. After a few hundred meters, the purple wind monster sped up and crawled towards the end of the light. Su Fong could not forget the scene from just now. Shur suddenly appeared, and then that sunflower-like mouth seemed to be staring at him. After an incense stick's worth of time, the purple wind monster finally crawled out of the abyss. After Su Fong appeared, he immediately contacted the Wooling Goblin. Then, an immortal talisman on his body moved. Hurry and meet up. Chung Yuanfeng's urgent voice sounded from the immortal talisman. Thinking about it, he had obtained quite a few treasures this time. It was time to leave this troublesome place, especially to avoid that expert from the constellation of Nine Heavens. Activating the immortal talisman and using the Wooling Goblin's aura as a coordinate, Su Fong had the purple wind monster drag him to the edge of the danger zone. After half a day, he met up with a Wooling Goblin that had fused with a rock. This guy had found quite a few soul-leaving stones. After calling the two big goblins back to the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, the immortal talisman suddenly moved again. After Su Fong activated it, he approached the depths of the danger zone that was faintly responding. In the middle of a forest, there was a very secretive canyon hidden away. Just as he arrived at the edge of the canyon, a few cultivators appeared with Dao artifacts in their hands. It was Chung Yuan Feng, Wang Yue Hai, and a few other cultivators. They were obviously heavily injured. After asking around, they found out that they had encountered a very powerful heavenly demon and an evil sect expert. They were currently hiding from the demons nearby. As an unnamed disciple, Su Fong could only hold the immortal talisman and hide in the forest outside. He then stood guard for them. He estimated that there would be a large number of casualties among the dozens of immortals from the Jinwu Villa. Wang Yuehai and Chung Yuan Feng are recuperating. No one is paying attention to me. Even if there is danger, it has nothing to do with me. I have to hurry up and recover the true qi I used in the undercurrent space. I also have to find a powerful Dao artifact for self-defense. He hid among a few rocks in the forest. At this moment, he was 3 miles away from Wang Yuehai and the others. He was watching from the periphery. There was no movement in the surroundings for the time being. After swallowing an immortal pill, he began to look for Dharma treasures. He did not devour a large amount of the tree demon's power. This tree demon was not easy to obtain. He wanted to use it when he transcended the tribulation. Dharma treasures. Previously, when he dealt with the tree demon, he obtained dozens of Dao artifacts and a large number of storage Dharma treasures. Perhaps he could find a powerful one that could be used as a backup. He activated his mind and came to the highest level of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. The Dharma treasures he collected were all placed here. Dozens of Dharma treasures floated in different shapes. Their quality was not too outstanding, but they were more outstanding than most of the Dao artifacts he encountered in the mortal realm. I have to find a very powerful Dharma treasure first. He began to weigh the flying swords in his hand. There were also some huge sabers, spears, and so on. The quality of these Dharma treasures was extraordinary in the eyes of mortals. However, to immortals, they were only average. Since he wanted to fuse them, he had to find a powerful one. There are so many immortal armors. Su Fong did not care about the other Dharma treasures. However, there were a few armors that were quite good. Although their quality was not high, they could be used to protect the body. He picked one for himself and gave the rest to Green Feather King, Undying Turtle, and Bai Ling's Silver Moon Immortal Armor. An armor that looked like a layer of silver yarn floated gently on Su Fong's left hand. Wearing this immortal armor, I can block the attacks of ordinary virtual immortals and demons. I don't have to risk my body. He carefully sensed the Silver Moon Immortal Armor. The quality was not bad. It was better than the small universe Immortal Pot. It was much better than the Dao artifact armor passed down by Emperor Xinyuan. After dripping a drop of blood, he let the ownerless Immortal Armor automatically absorb and fuse with it. After some time, Su Fong fused with the Silver Moon Immortal Armor. The Silver Moon Immortal Armor was simple. It was just that there were more defensive immortal arrays inside. Su Fong could not activate many immortal arrays now. However, as long as he activated a part of them, it was enough to protect himself against virtual immortal experts. After wearing the Silver Moon Immortal Armor, it was as if it was attached to his skin. It was even magical. It was indeed a useful protective immortal armor. This is great. I don't have to worry about my body being damaged in the future. However, I didn't find a very domineering offensive Dao artifact. With the Silver Moon Immortal Armor, Su Fong felt like he was a piece of iron rock that could not be moved. However, he did not find a domineering offensive Dao artifact. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he thought of something. In the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda space, he activated his mind. Slowly, a Xian Guang floated over. It was the Dao seal that Huangfu Huaying left for him. It was a Dao seal that came from the constellation of 9 heavens and a part of his memories. Most importantly, he also left a treasure for Su Fong. It was probably the treasure that caused his death. Perhaps it was a domineering Dharma treasure. Not to mention the immortal Zhan Gate, Yin Shao Thunder Sword, and Chaos Ring. As long as it was a Dao artifact that reached the level of the Soul Sword Heavenly Monarch, it would be good enough. If he activated the Dao seal in the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, he would not have to worry about being discovered by the constellation of 9 heavens expert. Soon, Su Fong grasped some of the Dao seal's boundaries and immortal seals. After casting these immortal seals, a Dharma treasure light slowly flew out from the Dao seal. It's a Dao artifact of decent quality. Before Su Fong could see what the Dao artifact's true body was, Law's praise came from the blood jade in his body. Curiously, the Dharma treasure's luster revealed a sharp, Fong-like blade. It was sharp and domineering. Then, the whole thing appeared. It was a round wheel. The wheel was only as thick as the mouth of a bowl, and a Fong protruded from each side. 4 fangs grew on the 4 sides of the wheel, slightly curved in a counterclockwise direction. It was very cold and strange. Ghost Tooth Square Wheel. At the bottom of the reverse side of the wheel, Su Fong saw 5 words. It was the name of this Dharma treasure. Law said again, this Dharma treasure is not bad. In the great world, there are many Dao artifacts, but it's still a long way from being a real treasure. Indeed, Su Fong felt that this Ghost Tooth Square Wheel was slightly better than Green Feather Monarch's Heaven Lord Soul Sword. It was better than the dozens of Dao artifacts he had before. It's you. It seems that such a powerful and domineering Dao artifact is enough for me to kill ordinary immortals when I'm in danger. Without hesitation, he dripped his blood into it and began to fuse with it. The Ghost Tooth Square Wheel was an ownerless item, so it was relatively easy to fuse with it. However, such a high-quality Dao artifact required a strong essence soul and immortal power to activate. It wasn't like the Heaven Lord Soul Sword, which could activate part of its power by embedding immortal stones in it. It was easy to fuse with the Silver Moon Immortal Armor, which was only a defensive Dao artifact. Offensive Dao artifacts were different. The quality, refining method, Immortal arrays and boundaries were all very different. After dripping his blood into it, Su Fong slowly fused with the Ghost 2 square wheel in the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. As for his original body, it was still hidden in the rock, holding an immortal talisman and watching for everyone. A few days later, inside the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, the power of a Dao artifact almost exploded the sixth floor of the pagoda. It turned out that Su Fong had fused with the Ghost 2 square wheel and activated the immortal arrays inside, causing such a powerful Dao artifact to reveal its domineering power. It was about to shatter the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Su Fong quickly slowed himself down. There was no need to rush. If he fused with such a Dao artifact in a hurry, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda would be damaged. Although the Ghost 2 square wheel was powerful, in Su Fong's eyes, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda was more important. After suppressing it, Su Fong sent out countless essence souls into the Ghost 2 square wheel to fuse with the boundaries and immortal arrays. At the same time, his original body absorbed the power of the deity pills and the spirit qi from the large world, which helped him recover all the energy he had used. Besides, he also had to suppress the tribulation qi, so he couldn't undergo the tribulation there for the time, being to deal with 2 heavenly calamities and enter the 3rd heavenly calamity state. Almost 2 years later, most of the essence souls had mastered the immortal arrays and boundaries of the Ghost 2 square wheel. Once they entered the Dao artifact, any immortal array would release its power. The essence souls activated the immortal arrays and combined them, which was equivalent to activating the Ghost 2 square wheel to attack. Since the Ghost 2 square wheel's quality is higher than that of Heavenly Lord Soul Sword, once this Dao artifact is activated, it can definitely kill immortals when they are unprepared. Even if it can't kill them, it can severely injure them and let them escape. Most of them had fused, but he still needed time to control more immortal arrays. Buzz! Suddenly, Su Fong, who was cultivating and absorbing the energy of nature, felt a different aura seeping into the forest. Chapter 891. Not good. No matter what this aura was. Su Fong immediately took out his immortal talisman and activated it. He jumped out of the rock and ran towards the depths of the forest. His perfection ability kept appearing. The aura behind him was too terrifying. He did not know what kind of terrifying existence it was. Where is everyone? When Su Fong arrived at the forest where Wang Yuehai, Cheng Yuanfeng, and the others were cultivating, there was no one there. However, the barrier was still disappearing. It meant that Wang Yuehai and the others had left before him. This group of bastards, I have to follow them. Otherwise, I will not be their match alone. He activated his immortal talisman and released his perfection ability. In addition, the world gods might absorb the qi of nature, allowing his perfection ability to quickly capture the remaining aura of Jianwu Villa in the surrounding air. He found it. He quickly jumped towards the depths of the right side. After passing through the forest, he saw a bottomless valley filled with moisture. They must have hidden inside. He did not think too much and jumped down. Shwa shwa he kept breaking through the moisture and rubbing against some plants. In the blink of an eye, a familiar aura came from the fog. You're still following us. The illusory figures of several immortals shook the fog away. It turned out to be the ferocious Wang Yuehai with an immortal sword in his hand. They were very surprised. They did not expect that an ant like Su Fong would be able to catch up here. Ignore him. Wang Yuehai's illusory figure suddenly disappeared. It turned out that this person was using a supreme, immortal divine ability. It should be a projection of a clone. It was very lifelike. However, they were not in front of Su Fong. When Su Fong caught up, there was only fog left. However, when he tried to sense those people again, another immortal with a similar aura came from the side. It was a disciple of Yunhua Mountain. When he appeared, before Su Fong could react, this person actually used a seal to bind Su Fong's hands and legs. Bring him over. Wang Yuehai's cold laughter came from the fog in front. Senior brother, this is... Hearing Wang Yuehai's words and seeing the seal on his body, Su Fong looked at the expert beside him in a daze. Don't blame me. Like an eagle grabbing a chick, the immortal held Su Fong in the air. With a few steps, he arrived in front of a barrier. Wang Yuehai, Chung Yuanfeng, and several other experts were staring at Su Fong from the other side of the barrier. Wang Yuehai indifferently said, "It should be demonic Dao experts chasing after us. We need a primer to attract their attention and lead them away from this canyon. The primer is you, unfettered true devil." Chung Yuanfeng was grinning from ear to ear. "Why me?" Su Fong was confused and looked at them in horror. "Your cultivation is the weakest, and you're also an in-name disciple. If we don't use you to lead them away, who else is more suitable than you?" Wang Yuehai was even colder. "Don't think that you'll have a good life just because you want to please Huowen. In the end, in Huowen's eyes, you're even worse than a dog. There's no loss to him if you die. Even if you become an in-name disciple, you'll only be in existence to run errands for us." Another expert raised his hand. "Don't talk nonsense with him. We don't have much time. Those demonic Dao experts are very powerful. Their tracking ability is amazing. They probably have that terrifying food." Wang Yuehai nodded at the immortal who shackled and sealed Su Fong. "Junior brother Zhang, bring him over. Crush his primordial spirit and refine him into a puppet. Make him leave the canyon and escape to the depths of the danger zone to attract the attention of those demonic Dao experts. Hee, senior brothers, hide in the barrier. Come with me." The immortal coldly glanced at Su Fong. Suddenly, he controlled Su Fong again and flew away from the barrier at a low altitude. In midair, he began to condense the immortal seal. "Don't blame me. This is fate. Disciples like you are just cannon fodder." The immortal sneered at Su Fong like a demon. His hands immediately began to form seals. "I don't know who's the cannon fodder." At this moment, the immortal's absolute control weakened a lot. Su Fong saw that the immortal was forming seals and almost ignoring him. He suddenly frowned, and vertical lines appeared on his temples. "Senior Peng King." It seemed that at the moment of life and death, his primordial spirit was about to be killed by the immortal. He was a weakling. This time, he was indeed ignored. With a roar of thunder, Su Fong suddenly shot out a sword light from the back of his head. The sword light was too fast. In addition, the immortal was less than 3 feet away from Su Fong. At first, the immortal didn't know the purpose of Su Fong's struggle. At most, it was just a dying struggle. However, when the sword light suddenly pierced through his defense and skin, the immortal showed despair and disbelief. PFFF. The sword light was as fast as lightning. Inside the barrier, the immortal's back was suddenly torn open by the sword light without the immortal's noticing. A bloody hole the size of a head appeared. What heart? It was probably completely destroyed by the sword energy. How is this possible? In the barrier far away, the immortal experts suddenly noticed the movement and the bloody mist. Only then did they turn around to look. What he saw was his companion falling, dying under an extraordinary immortal sword. And the ant-like, unfettered, true devil suddenly stepped on the immortal sword. He turned around and looked at them fiercely. Then, he immediately disappeared into the mist. Before they could chase after him, he disappeared without a trace. Unfettered, true devil, you killed a fellow disciple. The villa will not let you go. Chung Yuanfeng angrily released the voice of his primordial spirit. Wang Yuehai suddenly stopped them. "Don't chase. Those demonic experts will probably enter the canyon. We have a barrier here. As long as we activate the barrier to hide our aura, we have a high chance of avoiding the demons." Senior brother Wang, this unfettered, true devil actually has such an extraordinary flying sword. It's even better than the Dao artifacts we have. That's right. Furthermore, this person killed a fellow disciple. He is a traitor of our Jianwu villa. We can't chase after him. Who knew that so many demons would appear in the Soul Capital danger zone? If we fight with the demons again, we might be wiped out. This kid can't possibly survive in the danger zone. We have to avoid these demons. We have to capture him. All the immortals were unwilling to accept this. In fact, they all wanted to obtain the Heaven Lord Soul Sword that Su Fong used. The Jianwu Villa was a sword cultivation faction. How could they not see the difference in the Heaven Lord's soul sword? This is great. He betrayed and killed a disciple of the Jinwu villa in front of so many people. He was even forced to leave the Jinwu villa. These people probably also saw that the Heaven Lord's soul sword was extraordinary. The Jinwu villa's fate is unpredictable. I still want to temporarily rely on this faction. I will leave after they deal with the 7-star child. In the mist, Su Fong suddenly jumped down from the flying sword. He did not escape the canyon. He could not go out now. That aura was sweeping over. It was too dangerous to go out alone. Seeing a large number of tree roots and vines extending from the cliff like tree demons, Su Fong suddenly had a flash of inspiration. His left arm turned into a large number of tree vines and merged with the cliff. His entire body also turned into a part of the tree roots. He used the wood elemental divine ability to hide his aura to the extreme. Buzz! Buzz! A shocking aura suddenly enveloped the top of the canyon. He used his perfected ability. He heard more than a dozen figures made of demonic aura that were as fast as lightning flashing into or across the canyon. These people were obviously faster than Wang Yuehai and the others. They were not on the same level. Indeed, there was always someone stronger among people. A few figures made of demonic aura arrived at different parts of the canyon. Su Fong could hear some cultivators frantically running for their lives in the depths of the canyon. He did not know where these demonic experts came from. The canyon and the sky above the canyon. After waiting for a while, all kinds of tremors came from the air, the ground, and the rocks. It was as if the canyon was going to collapse and bury it. There were powerful willpower explosions everywhere. Essence souls were densely packed. If he revealed a bit of his aura now, he would be discovered by those experts. Wait, it has nothing to do with me. With a trace of uneasiness, Su Fong gritted his teeth and used his wood elemental ability to become a part of nature. In this way, it would be difficult for the experts to discover the divine might of nature. After a series of destructive tremors that lasted less than an hour, the canyon returned to silence. Only there were some movements outside the canyon. Then, all the moisture and fog began to be swept away by the destructive aura, revealing ruins that were filled with blood chi. Without using his perfected ability, Su Fong already saw more than a dozen cultivators being controlled by 3 red cloak cultivators who were releasing demonic aura. You stay here. Come with me to capture those righteous path cultivators with decent cultivation. The cloak of one of the demonic cultivators suddenly opened. Before Su Fong could exclaim, a pair of black bat-like wings grew out from the cloak. With a sudden flap, he escaped into the sky. He was faster than any cultivator that Su Fong had seen in the great world. What kind of demon is that? He was deeply shocked. Not only was it in the form of a demon, but the demonic aura that this person released had a strong underworld aura, as well as the powerful demonic aura cultivated from the transcending Heaven Demon book. A true demon. A heavenly demon. Could there be a heavenly demon? The demon's form was terrifying, like a demon, and the demonic aura on his body was even colder than when he was formed. It was a kind of gloomy coldness that made one's hair stand on end. Su Fong trembled as he looked at the sky. Law, have you seen what kind of demon cultivator that is? I have. Law's faint and powerless voice came from the blood jade in his body. The demons you said you know, or the heavenly demon book you cultivate, are just the cultivation methods passed down by the demon race. Most demonic cultivators, such as true demons and heavenly demons, are actually just demonic cultivators, and the ultimate goal they pursue is the true demon, which is the demon race. The devil race. It seems that the heavenly devil tome that I cultivated only mentioned a few words about them. But do they really exist? I thought that the devil Tao cultivators were just cultivators who pursued evil because their cultivation methods were different. I don't know the origin of the demon race, but they used to be the main force that formed this world, incarnating into darkness. Later, they fought with the righteous path of humans again and again, causing the demon race to constantly migrate from human territory. They established the demon world in the outer space outside the great world. Normally speaking, The demon world shouldn't appear so wantonly in the human world. Is the demon world going to invade our human world again? Luo said to himself. Demon world. It was too far away, and he had never come into contact with this kind of power. Su Fong suddenly cast his great perfection ability on the remaining demon, as well as a dozen or so righteous cultivators who were suppressed. He saw an acquaintance, Wang Yuehai. This person and the others were all poisoned and on the verge of death. The demon probably wouldn't let him die so easily. Just like those demonic cultivators below the abyss, he would eventually be used to cultivate demonic arts. I can't go back to Jinwu Villa, but I have to keep track of 7 Stars' movements at all times. If I leave Jinwu Villa like this, and Hoenn really kills 7 Star, I won't be able to get any information. Suddenly, his eyes fell on Wang Yuehai. Su Fong's mind went into the Blood Jade and asked Law urgently, Law, do you think I can kill that demon if I use the Ghost Fong quadrangular wheel to sneak attack him? Chapter 892. Law was very surprised. Of course, you can use the Ghost Fong 4-sided wheel to kill him at close range. But with your current cultivation, you can't use this Dharma treasure to that extent. The reason for this expression was that Law felt that Su Fong should leave this place as soon as possible. Why would he take the risk? Since it's difficult to kill him, I'll just injure him severely. Without explaining too much to Law, Su Fong released the Wuling Goblin and let it wrap around Green Feather King to approach the demon from the ground. As for him, he used all his strength to activate the Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda and absorb the power of the dozens of demon immortals on the 2nd level. After fusing them, he sent them into the Ghost Fong 4-sided wheel. At this moment, he began to activate the World Fragment. Together with the Wuling Goblin and Green Feather King, the 3 experts gradually approached the demon from the ground. After a full 2 hours, the 3 experts used their natural abilities to reach the back of the demon expert. Su Fong said with his primordial spirit, Wuling Goblin. Boom! In the canyon ruins behind the demon expert, a Dao light suddenly shot out from the ground, especially the light of a Dharma treasure, and attacked the expert from behind. Great barbaric demon palm. That demon was too powerful. The Dao artifact was still 3 feet away from him, but he reacted in time. As he turned around, he swept his cold eyebrows and waved his palms without hesitation. He grabbed a palm force full of intertwined demonic patterns and blasted it on the Dao artifact's light. Ha! The Dao artifact's light was sent flying by the demonic pattern's palm force. Paltry tricks. The experts of my devil world are no match for a mere ordinary Dao artifact. The big red nightmare snorted disdainfully. It was cold to the bone. Swish! But he never expected, after the Dao artifact Xianguang was blasted away, a flying sword suddenly came from the afterimage behind him. Heaven Lord's Soul Sword. Damn it, great barbaric demon palm. This devil slapped out with his left palm, and Heaven Monarch Soul Sword struck his palm with a loud bang, piercing out a bloody hole. Then he slapped with his right palm and hit the sword body. He actually blasted Heaven Lord's Soul Sword away and shattered a large amount of sword force. The devil was also forced to retreat. However, just as the Heaven Lord Soul Sword was repelled, another Dao item appeared in the form of a spinning attack. With a swoosh, it broke through the air. The demon's eyes opened wide, and they were filled with fear. He placed his hands together and sealed everything. Barbarian God protection. An ancient giant covered in blood suddenly enveloped the demon head. Bungueya's quadrangular wheel smashed into the giant, and with a huge explosion, the giant and the demon were sent flying. We are saved. After 3 consecutive sneak attacks on the demons, on the other side, the cultivators that had been tortured by the demonic poison all began to struggle as they saw the demons being sent flying away. Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword. 2 experts leaped up from the ground. It was the Wuling Goblin King Green Feather who had transformed into his human form. He embedded an immortal stone into the Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword, which instantly shot out a dazzling sword rainbow towards the devil. Clang, clang, he didn't expect that the devil would also summon his artifact. Although the quality wasn't as good as the Heaven Monarch Soul Sword artifact, it was able to fully utilize its strength and didn't give the Heaven Monarch Soul Sword any chance to escape. All of you are mine. The door of the pagoda suddenly rolled over the dozen immortals at lightning speed and sucked them into the pagoda like the autumn wind sweeping up fallen leaves. Brother. Bai Ling appeared beside Su Fong again, but this time she was in her true body. Whoosh, whoosh. Green Feather King and the Wooling Goblins suddenly turned into two afterimages and disappeared from Su Fong's palm. Whoosh. Bai Ling carried Su Fong on her back and flew out of the canyon under the protection of the Devil's Tao artifact. Where do you think you are going? The huge demonic statue around the demon suddenly disappeared. He spat out blood and staggered, almost falling down. He chased up the canyon with less than half of his previous speed. After a few breaths, the demon came to the top of the canyon and looked in all directions. He actually couldn't see anything. I will not let you go. Food spread out the aura of these people. After searching for a while, the demon struck out a demonic seal. An evil food slowly crawled out and swallowed the canyon's air. It then spat out blood bubbles and disappeared into nature. Furthermore, the food actually swallowed the demon in one gulp. When the demon was swallowed, he didn't feel any pain or fear. It was estimated that eating this monster could achieve some kind of dual cultivation demonic technique. In fact, it was not far away. In an inconspicuous forest, Su Fong, who was almost invisible, used his wood elemental divine might to merge with a big tree and hide in the canopy. If Bai Ling really wanted to carry him and escape, he would definitely not be able to escape the demon's pursuit. This was just a facade he made to confuse the demon, thinking that he had escaped to the depths of the Forbidden Land. When he felt that no one was paying attention to this forest, Su Fong used the demonic disintegration seal and separated a part of his primordial spirit to enter the third level of Xian Huang, Six Paths Pagoda. As soon as he arrived, he saw more than a dozen immortals being controlled by the demonic poison and in so much pain that they wished they were dead. Wang Yuehai was among them. They looked at Su Fong in despair. Wang Yuehai exclaimed in disbelief and stared blankly at Su Fong appearing in front of him. Su Fong didn't look at the other immortals and directly floated above Wang Yuehai. Wang Yuehai, we meet again. You didn't expect it, did you? In less than 30 years, you fell into my hands in the blink of an eye. You even wanted to kill me before. Wang Yuehai panicked. His eyes were filled with despair. You can't have just ascended from the lower realm. He didn't believe that an ascender had such strength. You don't have to worry about that. Now that you're in my hands, if you want to kill or restrain you, you'll have to look at my face. Even if I don't do anything, you'll be tortured by this demonic poison for the rest of your life, won't you? You might as well kill me, seeing that we both came from the lower realm, Wu-Tan realm. Now you finally remember that we both came from a small realm. It doesn't matter why you didn't think this way before. To me, Jinwu Villa isn't important. As for you, you're just an ant. I can't even be bothered to kill you, but what I want to tell you is that I can help you get rid of the demonic poison and recover. Can I? The other immortals being restrained by the demonic poison suddenly knelt down in pain and crawled towards Su Fong. Of course you can, but the prerequisite is that you're all willing to be my slave from now on. If you can't do that, don't expect me to save you. I'm not a good person. Yes, we're all willing. Wang Yuehai, what about you? I'm also willing to live. I hope that you'll be magnanimous and give me a way out, seeing that we both came from small realm. That's simple. Kneel properly. I'll use a supreme divine ability to restrain your primordial spirits first, so that you won't bite me when you get rid of the demonic poison. My mortal realm magic treasure can't take a hit from you. Yes. Everyone hurriedly waited obediently. After forming a hand seal, Su Fong formed a seal, Xian Guang, and sent it into the minds of Wang Yuehai and the other immortals. Now, not only did he have more than a dozen immortals, but he also had more than a dozen immortal immortals. Moreover, none of them were virtual immortals. In order to get rid of the demonic poison in your bodies, I'll have to let my blood ghost true demon absorb the demonic poison from your bodies. Don't worry, It's just that the process will be very painful. Enjoy it well. When I return from my tribulation, the demonic poison in your bodies will be almost gone. After leaving behind the true demon blood plate, his consciousness disappeared from Xianhuang, 6 Paths Pagoda. His main body slowly appeared from the monster tree. After waiting for a few days, he didn't see any movement. Only then did he summon the purple wind monster and gallop on the ground. Half a month later, Su Fong finally left the Soul Capital impasse and found a mountain ridge in the desolate mountain range. He summoned Zhu Huang, 9-section Earth Dragon, Piercing Sky Demon Venerable, and other big goblin to protect him. Of course, the strongest were still Green Feather King, Undying Turtle, and Bai Ling. They cultivated here while protecting Su Fong. In less than half a day, a great tribulation appeared in the sky. The second tribulation is even more terrifying, especially the illusion tribulation. This time, I must stabilize my Tao heart and try my best not to let the tribulation power control my consciousness. It was best to be prepared. In particular, he spent a great divine ability to condense a clone. It was not an ordinary clone, but a primordial spirit clone formed by using the heavenly demon disintegration seal. This clone was controlled by Green Feather King. At this moment, the sky was filled with the tearing power of the calamity. After Su Fong formed the seal, the first calamity directly collapsed and rumbled down in a large area. Looking from below, the sky was filled with the shattered power of the calamity. There were fragments, all kinds of terrifying flames, flashing lightning, and flames. Formless fire cloud saber. He pointed 2 fingers in the air. The vast true chi in his body fused with the divine power of the world. Suddenly, countless burning saber lights appeared in the great calamity and began to explode around the calamity. This time, Su Fong was involved in countless shattering and different calamities. The last time I entered the illusion tribulation, I somehow fell into this environment. Could it be business? While waiting, the power of the calamity caused his defenses to collapse layer by layer. It was too dangerous. If he was not careful, he would be crushed into a pile of minced meat along with the collapse of his defenses. He heard the sound of thunder and all kinds of explosions that could crush his mind. He felt that the sound slowly entered his body and controlled his true chi and primordial spirit. That was why he unknowingly fell into the illusion tribulation. For this reason, he began to use wind and cloud hearing. But for this reason, his defense was a little weak. After all, the calamity and the formless fire cloud saber collided and exploded, causing Su Fong to fall into the center of the vortex of the calamity's power. After a long time, the second calamity formed a terrifying scarlet lightning that filled the sky. The sizzling area, along with the power of the vortex, concentrated on Su Fong. It was too terrifying. With all his strength, it turned into a huge palm print and grabbed toward the large area of burning lightning. It grabbed the lightning into a large number of fried dough twists and finally returned to a large area. It crazily fell around Su Fong, bombarding his defenses and the silver moon immortal armor on his body, shaking again and again. The blood-colored lightning tribulation became more and more terrifying. It was as if the lightning tribulation was formed by blood. It felt like it was going to turn into a demon and swallow Su Fong into the center, forcing Su Fong to activate his sword chi to shatter a large area. Some of the blood-colored lightning tribulation turned into a humanoid state. As Su Fong used more divine abilities, their power became more terrifying. And when the attacks were released, these blood-colored lightning tribulation turned into a large number of his previous opponents, such as Master Heiyun, Immortal Toad, the Third Prince, and even Prince Shui. It must be the illusion tribulation. I'm now in the great world. Everything is an illusion. It's all fake. Su Fong disregarded everything and released his sword chi divine ability, smashing the blood-colored lightning tribulation figures into pieces. But he didn't expect the second calamity to be so powerful. After shattering a lot of blood-colored lightning tribulation figures, More and more lightning tribulation figures separated, constantly surrounding and swallowing him. When he fell into the encirclement, some sword chi suddenly turned into human figures. They turned into Big Goblin, like the Vermilion Emperor and the 9-segment Earth Dragon. Lan Haicheng and Xiao Mei were also among them. They had smiles on their faces as they helped Su Fong deal with the lightning tribulation figure army. Chapter 893. When Su Fong saw so many experts appear around him to help him deal with the heavenly tribulation, a killing intent suddenly rose in his heart. He executed the flaming cloud sword chi and fused it with a limitless Tao art. Raging and burning sword chi erupted around him. The undying turtle, Lord Green Feather, Emperor Zhu, Su Jinhua, and other experts appeared in large numbers around him, following him to kill the Thunder Tribulation Army. True Chi and Essence Spirit kept exploding from Su Fong's body, and his Essence Spirit was burning. With so many people helping him, he had to use all his strength to suppress the Thunder Tribulation Army and kill as many as came. And he had to be at the forefront. He released all the energy in his golden core, origin, and yang meridian, and in his divine aperture, he also activated the heavenly demon disintegration seal, and his young infant was in a state of burning. With the combination of Dharma power, true chi, and essence spirit, coupled with his extraordinary body, Su Fong's strength had reached a crazy peak at this time. The Thunder Tribulation Army kept shattering, and Su Fong led the experts in the sky to kill more burning and Thunder Tribulation figures. It seemed like Su Fongzheng was leading countless experts to kill the strong enemies and cause them to throw away their helmets and armor, destroying everything. In fact, outside the heavenly tribulation, what Lord Greenfeather saw was different from what Su Fong had experienced. In his eyes, the two heavenly disasters were really terrifying. They kept attacking and pressuring Su Fong in the heavenly tribulation vortex, breaking Su Fong's defense and condensing the surrounding aura in time. But Su Fong, who was wearing the silver moon immortal armor, was like a crazy person with a rich expression. He was in a state of burning energy, forming a lot of seals and constantly attacking. He seemed to be releasing all the energy in his body. Something's wrong. When Lord Greenfeather saw this scene, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It's not his style to use his essence spirit, true chi, and Dharma power without restraint. Although the two heavenly disasters are powerful, he has the immortal armor and strength, so it's not too difficult to deal with them. Why is he releasing all his power to deal with the heavenly tribulation that's not a big threat to him? He couldn't understand. From a moment of the tribulation, Green Feather King and the other experts were in charge of the surrounding movements, especially him. Under Su Fong's instructions, he was in charge of a primordial spirit doppelganger left behind before. If this continues, my magic power will be exhausted and my primordial spirit will be severely exhausted. Perhaps my young infant will collapse and my true chi will also disappear. He must have fallen into an illusion. This is too different from the usual kid. It's time to send out this Yuan spirit clone. Green Feather Monarch, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly leaped up and stepped on Heaven Monarch Soul Sword. This magic treasure was not simple, and it was very useful. He did not need to use a large amount of celestial power, and he could use it as he wished. Heaven Monarch Soul Sword carried King Peng and approached Su Fong. Just as he was about to form a seal and release his demonic aura, he suddenly heard a shout. A heavenly calamity, flaming thunder, tribulation, struck towards him. Will of heavenly tribulation. Doomsday might not be much of a threat to immortals, but Greenfeather Monarch was blaspheming the will of the heavenly tribulation. The power of the calamity now could definitely kill him. His eyebrows knitted together like a pair of sharp, treasured swords. Heaven Monarch's soul sword suddenly leaped out. When the flaming thunder tribulation was 30 feet in front of him, Heaven Monarch's soul sword suddenly struck and killed it. The flaming thunder tribulation immediately dissipated. Go! Green Feather Monarch stepped on Heaven Monarch's soul sword again and looked at the other calamities. It was as if he was going to be the target of the tribulation. He came to the back of Su Fong's aura, released a primordial spirit glow, and tapped the back of his head. Chi! More than a dozen flaming thunder tribulations burst out. Green Feather Monarch rode his immortal sword back and activated Heaven Monarch Soul, sword halfway, turning it into a rotating sword aura. The flaming thunder tribulations were constantly shattered by the sword aura. Kid, wake up! Green Feather Monarch grabbed Heaven Monarch Soul, sword, and flashed a mile away. He looked very worried and expectant. Kill! 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 Inside the calamity whirlpool that did not threaten Su Fang's life, Su Fang seemed to be talking to himself. However, what he saw in front of him was not this scene. Instead, he saw endless flaming figures and flaming thunder tribulations figures. He was leading countless experts to break through the enemy's formation and carve out a path of survival. His eyes were blood red, and he was already obsessed with killing. Swish! Just as Su Fang, who had fallen deep into the illusory calamity, was about to exhaust all his strength, another Su Fang appeared beside him. Heavenly Devil's voice. This Su Fang was not a physical body, but a consciousness projected by the primordial spirit. He struck a large number of Dao runes and devil seals at Su Fang, turning them into sound waves that surged into Su Fang's eyes and glabella, drowning Su Fang in it. Su Fang slowed down, and the flames burning his primordial spirit and dermic powers also slowed down. His true chi, surging crazily, also stopped at this moment. Su Fang's original body, whose eyes were lifeless, gradually saw the primordial spirit figure and then looked around. Suddenly, the flaming thunder tribulations and flaming thunder tribulations distorted and disappeared layer by layer. Then, the experts and friends he was familiar with around him also disappeared in large numbers. After the figures disappeared, a large area of the calamity whirlpool appeared, but it was not terrifying. Su Fang's primordial spirit figure also disappeared. Suddenly, he looked at his hands and lost control of his body. He took a few steps back, and his face turned pale. His body was covered in ice. Didn't I seal off my hearing and other senses? Why am I still trapped in the illusory calamity? He persevered and looked around. Fortunately, the power of the second calamity was not as strong as before. It seemed that he had successfully passed the heavenly tribulation. However, he could not understand why he was trapped in the illusory calamity again. Since he could not figure it out, he simply sat down. When he checked his body, he was so frightened that he sucked in cold air again and again. His golden core origin had consumed more than 90% of its energy, whether it was demonic chi or monster chi. Of the 15 yang meridians in his body, the pure yang energy had also been consumed by 90%. Only the world fragment, the golden lotus stone flower, had an astonishing amount of energy. Everything else was empty. His mind was also a mess. He felt powerless and found it difficult to breathe. Even his yang soul was dispirited and listless. Thinking back to how he had recklessly released energy and used divine abilities in the illusory calamity, Su Fang was shocked and regretful. The illusory calamity is too strong. I thought that it could only attack the knots in a cultivator's heart, causing their Tao heart to weaken and affecting their will. But this time it didn't attack my knots. Instead, it provoked my desire to be strong. It attacked from this point to exhaust me and make me go crazy. If Su Fang's will was strong, then there would be some dark side in his heart. Or perhaps there were some unfulfilled wishes that had turned into knots in his heart and settled in the depths of his heart. The illusory calamity would use these forces to attack Su Fang's will and Tao heart. But this time it was different. The heaven's calamity followed his thoughts and aroused his desire to be strong. It attacked from this point and wanted him to fall into the illusory calamity and fight with powerful warriors. In the end, his primordial spirit, dermic powers, and genuine chi would be exhausted, and he would die of exhaustion. The illusory calamity was indeed terrifying. At this moment, the natural disasters above were weakening. It seemed that he had succeeded. As expected, after a while, his physical body began to welcome the power of advancement. It swept through his body, allowing him to step into the third from the second disaster level. This time, there were not many impurities in his body. While he was enjoying the advancement, he also checked the other changes in his physical body. When he glanced at the blood jade, Law suddenly said, "Do you know that the illusory calamity cannot be avoided? No matter how you seal your senses, you cannot avoid the illusory calamity. Remember, the only thing that can break the heavens' calamity is strength and will. I will face the last illusory calamity head-on." He agreed with Law. His physical body was transforming. He had stepped into the third disaster level. In order to speed up, Su Fong swallowed an elixir and waited for the advancement to end. In the ascension pool in the depths of the Yuanlu Grand World, whoosh, a ray of sword light flashed across the ascension pool as fast as lightning. An immortal with such speed was naturally not an ordinary immortal. On the sword, there were 3 people in the ray of sword light. One of them was Immortal Master Lung Xian, who had helped Jing Beiwang and Jing Suifeng to fight against Su Fong in the primordial god world. He was a white-robed man from the central city with some mysterious dragon patterns on his body. On the far right was a middle-aged man with the Holy Emperor's primordial god scripture. It was easy to tell that he was an elite that had ascended from the primordial god world. Immortal Master Lung Xian and this elite from the Jing family were led by the white-robed immortal in the middle. It was the white-robed immortal who was controlling the sword. This person's cultivation was unfathomable. In just half an incense stick's time, the ray of sword light suddenly swept across the rendezvous city on the ground. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them had arrived above the rendezvous city. Please forgive us for not welcoming you. There were more than a dozen immortals in charge of the rendezvous city. They were all powerful immortals. Otherwise, they would not have been able to maintain order in the rendezvous city. The immortals of the rendezvous city were very polite to Immortal Master Lung Xian and the other 2. The white-robed immortal, who looked like he was carved from jade, took out a piece of white jade from his waist. There were 2 words on it, which shocked the other immortals. Ningdi. So it's a friend of Ningdi Shan. The immortals of the rendezvous city were all very polite when they saw the white jade. It was just a piece of white jade, but it was able to move the people of the rendezvous city. The white-robed immortal put away the white jade and cupped his fists in greeting. "I'm looking for an ascender who recently ascended from the lower realm. I hope you can help me look into it." One of the immortals nodded. "No problem. Since it's Ning Dishan's idea, we will definitely support it. Do you have the appearance and name of the person who ascended?" "Everyone, it's this person." Immortal Master Lung Xian suddenly came to the center and took out a scroll in front of everyone. After unfolding it, it was actually Su Fong's lifelike figure floating in the air. It was like a living Su Fong had appeared in front of everyone. "Do you have any impression?" The immortal immediately looked at the immortals of the rendezvous city. After waiting for a while, an immortal walked out. This was the immortal who was in charge of Rendezvous City's immortals in the past. This person has a record. After saying that, this immortal used a seal. Su Fong, who was releasing demonic qi, appeared exactly the same as the one in Immortal Master Lung Xian's scroll. "It's this person." Immortal Master Lung Xian confirmed at a glance. The immortal politely replied in front of the experts of Ning Dishan's residence. "This person claims to be the unfettered true devil. He has been cultivating for 1,000 years. After coming to the rendezvous city, he was selected by a clan after a series of selections. However, something happened later and he killed the immortals. It seems that a group of ordinary mercenaries left. The white-robed immortal from Ning Dishan's residence cupped his fists. "Do you know where that group of mercenaries went?" "It seems that they went to the spiritual world," the immortal answered honestly. "The spiritual world?" The white-robed immortal's deep eyes narrowed for a while. Then he took out a ring. "My Ning Dishan's residence is very far away. It has some special spiritual items. The treasures in this storage ring are a gift for our first meeting." Whoosh! After leaving the ring, the white-robed immortal took Immortal Master Lung Xian and the expert of the Jing family and flew away. Ning Dishan's residence in the great world, People who are titled as immortal emperors have the same strength and status as the realm lords. I wonder why the mysterious Ning Dishan's residence would mobilize so many people to look for a person who ascended from the lower world. Let's disperse. Ning Dishan's residence is not a place that we can establish a relationship with. The immortals of Rendezvous City immediately went into the palace below. Chapter 894. In the sky above the forest 50 kilometers away from Extradition City, a sword light suddenly appeared. It was Immortal Master Lung Xian and the Jing family's experts. They had followed the white-robed immortal. The Jing family's experts bowed to the white-robed immortal. "My lord, we have been searching for people who ascended from the primordial god world. We have finally received news here." The white-robed immortal looked at Immortal Master Lung Xian. "This kid is not simple. He is very cautious. When he learned that you had returned to the great world, he must have been searching for him there or waiting for him at the Ascension Pool. I did not expect him to go to another small world and choose another heavenly path to come to one of the Ascension Pools in the Yuan Fortune Great World." Immortal Master Lung Xian bared his teeth. "We still have to use our experts and connections to search the Ascension Pool and Extradition City. We have wasted so much time. Senior brother, since Su Fong is the successor of the former human emperor, he must know the secret of the ethereal true solution. We must capture him. We can now confirm that this person is in the Yuan Fortune Great World. Although our Tranquility Emperor residence is in the immortal AO Great World, we have connections with many large factions here. Even if we turn the Great World upside down, we cannot spare this despicable cultivator who killed our Jing family's descendants. I have already ordered our experts in the Yuan Fortune Great World to send a portion of them to the Spirit 6 Immortal World to secretly search for this kid. As long as Extradition City has records, he will not be able to escape even if he grows wings. We will set the area between Extradition City and the Spirit 6 Immortal World as our target and search directly. We will definitely find some traces of this person. None of the people or things that our Tranquility Emperor residence is looking for can escape from us. Lung Xian, Jing Yuan, the two of you also send orders to the low-level servants to gather at the Spirit 6 Immortal World. Let's go." The white-robed immortal controlled the immortal sword again. He looked at the vast world in front of him and used the immortal sword to carry the two of them deep into the ground. In the distant mountains outside the Soul Capital Impasse, many big goblins lay dormant in the mountains. They were cultivating Tao artifacts and fusing with different spiritual items. On a rock at the peak of the mountain, there were traces of destruction caused by the apocalypse. There were also many ruins ahead. Su Fong sat cross-legged on the rock. With his lonely body, he faced the unfamiliar Yuan Fortune Great World. He secretly activated the world fragment in his body and continuously absorbed the power of the world. Previously, he had wasted a large amount of true qi during the tribulation, but now he was replenishing it bit by bit. Su Fong's consciousness was floating in the blood jade. He chatted with Law about cultivation and the topic of the apocalypse. Law suddenly sighed. "World fragments are so wonderful. You are really lucky to be able to meet and fuse with such a treasure in the lower realm. I wanted to ask you about this last time. You must know a lot about this world fragment." Floating in the blood jade space, Su Fong's was unable to enter the cage. World fragments are formed in the depths of heaven and earth. They are formed from the incomparably pure energy in the depths of heaven and earth. After millions of years of precipitation, they form a kind of world origin force. They surpass the origin stones and origin essences that you know of. This kind of world fragment is not everywhere. They're usually found in the depths of the world, especially in the depths of the black hole world. Some world fragments produce various kinds of energy through the movement of the natural world. They will also fall into small worlds or wastelands, dangerous lands, abysses, and various kinds of strange space-time. And this world fragment that you obtained should have fallen from a great world into a boundless small world. Of course, it is also possible that it was originally formed in a small world. But this possibility is too low. With the energy of a small world, it is difficult to form this kind of world fragment. Since ancient times, cultivators have used heaven and earth as the end of their cultivation. And the closest to the depths of heaven and earth and the secrets of heaven and earth are these world fragments. So, in this great world, world fragments are treasures that every expert dreams of obtaining, but they can only be found by chance. According to this, doesn't that mean that not many immortals in the great world have world fragments? Yes, I can only say that not many, but there are also many immortals who have world fragments. After all, some immortals are entangled with fate and will obtain world fragments through various means. Once they fuse with a world fragment, the speed of their cultivation and absorption of heaven and earth's energy will be several times faster than ordinary immortals. Usually, immortals who have world fragments are favored by the heavens, or those powerful immortal emperors and immortal emperors today. In front of Su Fong, Luo felt that he had told him a new world of cultivation. Compared to the mysterious woman in the ancient mirror, her explanation was even clearer. He felt that Luo knew more things than the mysterious woman. World fragments. Hearing this, Su Fong felt that he had really picked up a treasure. Suddenly, he thought of another doubt. Tell me about the devil race. I am cultivating the heavenly devil book, and I also have devil chi. Last time, when I sneak attacked the devil, you said something about the great brute devil palm. I can't finish talking about the devil race. It is said that the devil race and the human race were originally one, but as time passed, no one can really explain it clearly. I only know that time after time, the devil race withdrew from the world where the human race lived and went to those distant, cold, and dangerous dark worlds to establish the devil world. The devil world hasn't appeared for many years. The devil race expert I saw a while ago must have come from the devil world. Of course, it is also possible that he is a sealed devil who escaped from some ruins, wasteland, dangerous place, or plane of space-time. In the future, when you meet this kind of devil race expert, you must not casually fight with them. Their abilities are amazing, and they specialize in using humans to practice. I heard that the reason for the recent Great War of the Immortals and Devils was because the devil race captured countless humans and imprisoned them in the devil world. In the end, the righteous path could not sit by and watch, so they fought the devil world. In the end, both sides suffered great losses, and the devil world was silent for a time. The devil race is even more terrifying and hateful than the demon race or the corrupt path. They capture human women and use them as slaves. That way, they can give birth to a large number of devils. That's because many of the devil race's devils have gone from true devils to celestial devils through cultivation. In the end, there aren't many of them. In the end, they directly use human women as breeding tools to give birth to a large number of devil descendants. At this moment, Luo had an ancient air, as if he could see the great war of the immortals and devils with his own eyes. I didn't expect the devil race to be this kind of existence. I've never come into contact with this in the small world. Su Fong's body and mind were overturned, using humans as breeding tools. Although he had heard that the Yao race would do this in the small world, it was a minority after all. The devil path and evil sect experts in the small world would also use human women to practice, but it was also a minority. But in the large world, he didn't expect the devil race to openly capture human women. You've only been cultivating for a few hundred years, not to mention that you don't know anything about the devil tribe. Even in the Jinwu villa where you've stayed, there are very few people who know the secrets of the devil tribe. When you become an expert in the macro world, you'll come in contact with what the real macro world is like. The Yuan fortune world that you've seen now is only a corner of human life. The big forces that you've seen are, in fact, only very ordinary forces in the macro world. As for the great brute devil palm, Luo Yiwei continued. In the devil world, there was once a peerless devil called Devil, Venerable Barbarian God. Back then, he killed his way into the righteous past world as if there was no one there. He used the great barbarian devil palm. When he used it, he could destroy the Jinwu villa, you know. Even other large powers would find it difficult to withstand his move. He even almost destroyed a large world. Devil Venerable Barbarian God was such a powerful expert. Luo continued, I feel that if you want to become stronger as soon as possible, you should find a power that can truly help you cultivate. The Jinwu Villa is too small. You are a dragon, and it is just a fish pond. You should go to the constellation of 9 heavens. I don't know why, but I feel that the cultivation techniques of this power are not simple. If you cultivate there, it will definitely help you. Previously, I wanted to obtain the last part of the purple Chi Dharma spirit, so I had to stay in the Jinwu Villa. But previously, I openly killed the disciples of the Jinwu Villa, so I can't go there. Now, I can only choose to go to the constellation of 9 heavens. Speaking of this matter, I have to quickly resolve it. He temporarily bid farewell to Luo and left the Blood Jade. With a flash of his mind, he separated a part of his primordial spirit and came to the 3rd level of the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. More than a dozen immortals, a total of 15 people, were wrapped in blood-colored demonic qi. When they saw the Su Fong form, they knelt at the same time. Master, very good. The demonic poison is more or less gone. With a wave of his hand, the insufferably arrogant Wang Yuehai in front of Su Fong in the past trembled as he walked in front of Su Fong. But if you truly want to serve me, you can't be the slightest bit crafty. Otherwise, you've seen how powerful the Blood Wraith True Devil is. Its poison is 10,000 times more powerful than the bit of demonic poison left in your body. I can also be considered the former sect master of the Green Lotus Sword sect in the Wutan realm. Wang Yuehai trembled helplessly. Su Fong said majestically, It's because of that we were able to meet and interact like this. I won't kill you. Immediately return to the Jinwu Villa and continue to be a disciple of the villa. Pretend that none of this happened. In the Jinwu Villa, you can become strong and cultivate as you wish. The only thing you need to do is to pay attention to any traces of the 7-star child. In the future, if Huowen wants to deal with him, or if there's even the slightest bit of news about the 7-star child, you have to use this immortal talisman to immediately inform me. Good. Wang Yuehai was, of course, happy. Remember what you said. With a wave of his finger, Wang Yuehai disappeared from Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. After regaining his freedom, Wang Yuehai spoke to Su Fong and took out many origin stones, gems, and other materials, as well as a secret manual. Only then did he hurriedly fly on his sword and rush towards the Jinwu Villa. Su Fong also sucked the big goblin into the small heaven and earth immortal pod and sat on Bai Ling's back. The latter used its true body to carry Su Fong into the clouds in the sky, far away from the Soul Capital impasse. More than 10 years later, the world was no longer filled with forests. Instead, it was a desolate land with no temperature. A man and a crane left through the natural enchantment behind them. They felt like they had come from the city to the countryside. Behind the enchantment was the rich Yuan Lu Great World, but in front of them was a barren land with no life. According to the map, this is still the material plane where the Yuan Lu Great World is located. If we go deeper, there will be some small planes floating in the Milky Way or various nebulas. Deep in front is the immortal Ao Great World, and the constellation of 9 heavens is deep in front of us on the left. It is in a nameless relic space-time. I estimate that we will still need a few more decades to reach there. Don't be afraid. Bai Ling was not worried at all. It was still mischievous. After chatting and laughing for a while, a man and a crane began to embark on the dangerous journey to find the constellation of 9 heavens. No one knew what dangers they would encounter in the unknown journey ahead. Chapter 895. In the blink of an eye, Bai Ling carried Su Fong and left the edge of the Yuan Lu Great World's plane. A plane in a great world was like a huge piece of material in a star. Su Fong and Bai Ling seemed to have reached the end of this object. In front of them was the void, and below them was the abyss of stars. The moment they completely left the plane, the shackles brought about by the chaotic force of nature started to suppress Bai Ling, slowing him down by half a beat. Some forces similar to interstellar storms swept up all kinds of matter and dust, such as nebulas and fragments, and swept through the void. If they hit a virtual immortal, they would instantly be crushed into pieces. After about half a year, Bai Ling could not hold on any longer. Su Fang immediately summoned an immortal. Naturally, it was one of the 14 slaves he took from the demon. He got this person to activate the immortal sword. Su Fang and Bai Ling flew on the sword together. He let Wang Yuehai go. The remaining 14 people were not virtual immortals, but spirit immortals. Virtual immortals were above half immortals. They were condensing immortal essence, creating an immortal spirit body, cultivating their yang soul into a supreme yang immortal, and their divine image into a domain. When everything reached a near-perfect state, they would step into the spirit immortal realm. Spirit immortals were also called true immortals. Hence, in the great world, virtual immortals were all immortals, including mortals in the celestial world. Only spirit immortals were considered powerful. Mortals in the celestial world. Of course, there were also mortals in the celestial world. This was undeniable. Mortals in the celestial world were born with immortal bodies. However, due to their natural endowments or cultivation problems, most of them could only have immortal bodies at birth. It was difficult for them to cultivate. They had a longer lifespan than mortals in the small world, and they were born with greater strength. The 14 people Su Fang suppressed from the demon were all spirit immortals. Almost all of them were high-level spirit immortals. Hence, if a spirit immortal controlled the immortal sword in the void of the great world, he would naturally be faster than Bai Ling and the Green Feather King. No matter how extraordinary Bai Ling and the Green Feather King were, they could only increase their strength step by step after coming to the great world. Now, their strength was only at the virtual immortal level. They were much weaker than the 14 slaves. A few years later, all of a sudden, he encountered some amazing material plates in the void, the turbulence, and the nebula. These were the fragments of the planes, which had been separated from the big worlds for various reasons. They drifted in the endless void along with a natural power. The flying sword slave suddenly bowed to Su Fang and said, "Master, I remember that there's a dangerous place in the void up ahead. It's called the Decaying Water Dangerous Place. It's a free market, and there are all kinds of immortals there. We can rest there, but we can't stay in the void. It's too dangerous, and a single turbulence can kill us." He took out the map and compared it to the map. Sure enough, there was a corrosive water extreme place in the depths. There was also some information about the corrosive water danger ground. The corrosive water danger ground was also a small star plane, but it should be called a wasteland. In the depths of the wasteland, there was actually a huge river. The river water could corrode any life form. If a virtual immortal were to fall in, he would be completely corroded within a few breaths of time. Not even his bones would be left. Even though it was a dangerous place, there were no other dangerous forces aside from the corrosive water that could devour life. Hence, there was a mountain range in the depths of the corrosive water. There were quite a number of cultivators gathered there, and as time passed, it turned into a market. It felt like the corrosive water danger ground was similar to the spiritual sex wasteland in the small world. It just so happens that I'm preparing to undergo my tribulation. I'm going to cross 3 natural disasters. At the same time, I'm going to upgrade 3 treasures to Tao artifacts. I'll go buy some spiritual water and cleanse the 3 treasures. In addition, there's still a long stretch of void between the corrosive water danger ground and the constellation of 9 heavens. I can raise my strength to the virtual immortal realm. I'll be able to reach the constellation of 9 heavens in about 10 years. It's time for me to break through the final realm and become an immortal. I'll also go take a look at the corrosive water danger ground. There aren't any treasures that can cleanse the marrow of an immortal body. After thinking for a while, he sat cross-legged in the middle of the immortal sword. He told the slave not to rush to the corrosive water danger ground. His consciousness went to the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. He took out all the resources in the dozens of storage rings and treasures that he had obtained from the demon tree and organized them. He put all the resources that he did not need into the same ring so that he could use them to trade for treasures. He also put some useless Dao artifacts or defective Dao artifacts into the ring. Su Fong also rewarded some low-quality Dao artifacts to the first level of the pagoda. There were many big goblins from the small world. It was estimated that more than 100 big goblins had obtained Dao artifacts. There were also many immortal pills and other resources. There were also immortal stones. In addition to the Black Sea stones and soul-leaving stones that he had collected previously, he could also take out a portion of them to trade. After tidying up, he realized that he had some wealth. He was much richer than a spirit immortal. After he finished organizing, he began to fuse them together. He obtained the essence of refining artifacts from Wang Yuehai. He was preparing to upgrade the 3 Dao artifacts and transcend the tribulation to become an immortal. Inside the Blood Jade, Law seemed to be able to see what Su Fong was doing. He suddenly said, "Your current realm is very important. Do you realize? You are in the middle of the 3 heavenly tribulations. Once you transcend the tribulation, it will be extremely dangerous. Of course, this is important." It was Law again. It was a good time to chat. That's not what I'm talking about. Oh, 3 heavenly tribulations is a half immortal in ancient times. You are now between a half immortal and an immortal. Once you become an immortal, your spirit roots will be destined. You should know about your immortal roots and spirit roots. It will allow ascenders to have an immortal spirit body in the ascension pool. Your current physical body is mostly an immortal body. If you can obtain a spiritual item or energy that can condense an immortal body the moment you transcend the tribulation and become in essence immortal, then the immortal mark that you condense from your immortal body will be above everyone else. You mean that I have to find treasures that can help condense an immortal body as soon as possible? That's right. Of course, if you have them, then you have them. If you don't, then forget it. Your physical body is already above most immortals. If you have fortuitous encounters in the future, you might not be stuck here. Of course not. Since I want to become an immortal, I have to have the most perfect immortal root. He had thought of all the other preparations for transcending the tribulation to become an immortal. In the end, he still neglected this point. Because his natural talent was his physical body, he did not think about this aspect. Seemingly inadvertently, a mysterious aura came from the depths of the void in front of him. When Su Fong focused, a piece of planar matter gradually became clear in front of him. It was floating in the wind in various fragments. Corrosive water extreme land. After reaching a certain level, Su Fong let the slaves, and Bai Ling returned to Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. Relying on his own ability, Su Fong slowly flew in the void until he stepped into a land of water that was as big as a land. Ruins. This was the first impression he had when he stepped into this dangerous land. It was cold, and there was no forest at all. There were only various bare rocks and ruins that had fallen into it. There was not even any demonic aura. After flying at a low altitude for about half a day, he finally saw the rumored river of corrosive water. It was like a dead river, cold and collected in the depths of the earth. It looked black. Even if there was a strong wind, there would not be a water circle on the river of corrosive water. Stepping on his true chi, Su Fong gradually flew up the river of corrosive water. He felt that the shackles were getting more and more terrifying. He could only move slowly on the river of corrosive water at a jog. Swish! Swish! At this time, the 5 immortals were more than 10 times faster than him. They flew from the sky to the depths. Then, from other directions, more people appeared. Before this, he had not seen a single immortal for more than 10 years. But when he came to the river of corrosive water, immortals appeared intermittently. Fortunately, these people did not attack him. Otherwise, in this environment, he would definitely be suppressed. After almost half a day, he finally saw a huge mountain standing in the center of the land of corrosive water. When he was about to step into the land, he saw a shocking white bone on the shore and in the corrosive water. It looked like it belonged to a demon immortal. It was incomparably huge and dazzling. The white bone in the corrosive water was constantly rotting. This white bone would probably disappear soon. Immortals with your strength should not get close. There's a kind of plant in the corrosive water. It cannot leave the corrosive water, but it will ambush the life forms on the shore and drag you into the water. Even if you have the ability to reach the heavens, you will not be able to survive. At this time, a skinny old immortal in his 70s passed by. He shouted intentionally and flew toward a cave on the cliff. When he sensed the cave, he found that there were dozens of immortals inside. There were also many immortals in other caves and stone caves. It seemed like this was the habitat of the immortals. When he hurried over the mountainside and stepped over the ridge, he saw that there was actually a small city in the mountain range. The buildings were scattered. This was the market. Other than the buildings, there were also immortals. There were probably tens of thousands of people going in and out. Including the immortals who lived in the surrounding mountains, there were probably at least 100,000 immortals in this land of corrosive water. Moreover, there were very few essence immortals. Almost all of them were existences above the spirit immortal realm. I have the ghost tooth four-sided wheel. If I use it together with more than 10 slaves, I can kill any spirit immortal. I can even resist existences above the spirit immortal realm for a while. He was originally an ant that came to the world where the giants lived. If it were anyone else, they would definitely not dare to come to the land of corrosive water. However, Su Fong flew down without hesitation. After passing the city and landing, he could no longer feel the shackles of the land. The immortals should have some kind of power in the depths of the mountain range that was changing the shackles. It was something that could only be done by extraordinary means. There was an endless stream of immortals in front of him. They were dressed differently. There were also demons hiding their auras and evil cultivators. However, there were no demon immortals. His goal was to buy spirit cleansing water and treasures that could strengthen his physical body and condense an immortal body. He entered a chamber of commerce. There were immortals guarding the door. There were also some powerful immortals inside, standing in the corner like statues. It seemed like this land of corrosive water was not a good place. This chamber of commerce sold a lot of Tao artifacts, more than 1,000 of them. There was also a dazzling lineup of other treasures. However, there was nothing that Su Fong wanted. After walking around, he came to the largest 3-story building in the center. This was the largest chamber of commerce in the land of corrosive water. Naturally, they had enough strength to establish themselves in this land of corrosive water. They had an extraordinary foundation. "Sir, are you here to carry out a mission?" Just as he stepped through the door, he was stopped by an immortal who looked like a guard. Su Fong looked around and found that he was the weakest and most ordinary person. He now understood why the other party had stopped him. However, another person beside him was also stopped. An immortal coldly led Su Fong and the other immortals into a room at the side. There were more than 100 people waiting in the room. The immortals said indifferently, "They are all here to receive a mission from my chamber of commerce. You all should wait obediently. Soon, someone will come out to issue a mission." Receiving a mission? Su Fong did not come here. He quickly explained to the immortal. The result caused many people to laugh. Clearly, everyone thought that he was an ordinary immortal. Could it be that he came to the largest chamber of commerce in the land of corrosive water to buy treasures? Did he have the qualifications? Either scram or stay here and wait for the mission to be issued. If you don't find anything suitable, then scram out of the chamber of commerce. The immortal did not give any face and shouted. If there were not so many people, this immortal would have taught Su Fong a lesson. Chapter 896. I've been underestimated. Let's just wait a bit and go to the other normal merchant guilds. A big shop bullying its customers. This was the first time since Su Fong started cultivating that he truly understood the meaning of the phrase, a big shop bullying its customers. A small fry. This small fry was even more realistic. Half a day later, 100 or so people had gathered. Then, a few managers of merchant guilds appeared, as well as a dozen or so experts that did not belong to the merchant guilds. These experts were all arrogant, and most of them looked like fiends. It was as if everyone owed them money. Of course, these experts were the ones who started the mission. They cooperated with the merchant guilds and recruited immortals to work for them. In the end, All three parties benefited, but the ones who lost out were still the immortals. In a small plain near my corrosive water extreme land, a few immortals died in a chaotic whirlpool. Someone wants to offer a price. Let's go in and retrieve their corpses and belongings. The price is negotiable. A manager of the merchant guild took out an immortal talisman and said, of the 100 or so people, 7 or 8 were tempted and accepted the mission. That immortal took out another immortal talisman. There's a merchant guild that got lost in a distant void. There's a nebula there, and they're probably lost in the nebula. They asked the merchant guilds for help, hoping that the merchant guilds would send people to open up a path and save them. This mission is not difficult. Who wants to go? Only 10 people. Me. He did not expect so many people to fight for the mission. It sounded very simple. They just needed to go to that void, find the nebula, and establish contact with the merchant guild that got lost. Once the merchant guild escaped, the mission would be completed. Therefore, many people wanted to obtain this mission. Su Fong did not care about these missions. He just wanted to finish it quickly and leave this place. The following missions were either to search for lost treasures, to escort some keepsakes, or to track down the tracks of certain people. In the end, only a dozen or so people were left. They could have left, but the experts of the merchant guilds took out another immortal talisman and said, "This is a new mission. It is more difficult and needs some people. The destination is the gold-silver flame mountain. It is a dangerous place among the many great worlds. There are 2 treasures there. One is the tear of immortal spirit, and the other is the tear of immortal spirit. There's no need for you to search for the immortal spirit tear. That treasure is too rare and precious. It's in the depths of the gold-silver flaming mountain, and even spirit immortals can't enter to obtain it. However, the immortal tear stone is different. It's a special gem formed after an immortal spirit tear drips onto a rock in the depths of the flaming mountain. Although it's similar to other marrow-cleansing gems, it's very rare. The immortal of the Chamber of Commerce said, "If any of you are willing, you can go with the experts of the Chamber of Commerce." Gold-silver flame mountain. The remaining immortals all looked expectant, but no one dared to truly agree. There were still a few who chose to participate in the mission. At this moment, a weak voice came from the blood jade. The tears of immortal spirit is a kind of marrow-cleansing spirit water. It is a natural marrow-cleansing spirit water recorded in the ancient books of the macro world. It is not a supreme treasure, but it is still extremely rare and precious. It can be said that even if you search the entire place, you will not find a marrow-cleansing treasure comparable to the tears of immortal spirit. Is it that extraordinary? He did not expect the tear of immortal spirit to be a rare marrow-cleansing spirit water. It is extraordinary. Most spirit water, but it is not comparable to the more precious treasures. The important thing is that it is very rare. I heard that in the great worlds, in some dangerous places of fire, such marrow-cleansing spirit water will only appear. At least for your mortal body, nirvana, immortal ascension is enough. It seems that the gold-silver flame mountain is very dangerous. Your natal treasure has the power of fire, and you control the power of the world. You have stronger immortals than you, but you do not have the advantage. It is up to you. In that case, let's go to the gold-silver flame mountain. In the end, Su Fong also went to get the immortal talisman and became a part of the mission. The experts of the Chamber of Commerce did not ask about his cultivation and strength. They did not seem to have many requirements for immortals who were on the mission. Fortunately, he did not immediately go on the mission. After recording it, Su Fong went to several ordinary Chamber of Commerce and finally spent a lot of money to get a large amount of spirit water for spirit-cleansing spirit water. 3 days later, more than 20 people from the Chamber of Commerce came out. Su Fong was one of them. There were some people from the Chamber of Commerce and some experts they recruited. Their overall strength was relatively good. Su Fong also learned that although the gold-silver flame mountain was a dangerous place, it was located in the void outside the great worlds. Few experts stepped into it. Besides the natural flames, there were no other dangers in the dangerous place. This was probably why the Chamber of Commerce did not require immortals to be strong. Soon, they left the material plane, where where the corrosive water extreme place was located. They crossed a large amount of void that was like a pile of ruins and gradually stepped into the legendary space outside. Outside, this was a space-time that was much larger than the danger zones and danger zones. It was often in a complex void formed by some kind of power. The gold-silver flame mountain was near the space outside. There were all kinds of terrifying natural forces there. It was a forbidden area for cultivators. In less than 2 years, the group finally passed through the countless complex substances and the shocking shackles of the void. In front of them was a material plane that seemed to be formed by a large amount of waste. It was much smaller than the corrosive water extreme place. When they stepped into it, they saw a cold and desolate mountain ridge or a huge mountain formed by the accumulation of ruins. There was no forest, only shackles and terrifying storms. In the depths, there was a bright red color. Below it was the gold-silver flame mountain. After a few days, they arrived at the deepest part of the center. There was a flaming mountain range that looked like a broken furnace. The immortals were dumbfounded. Gold-silver flame mountain. There were countless flaming caves in this flaming mountain range. They constantly shot out whirlpool-like heat waves or air currents. In the depths, there were some silver flames that shot out from time to time. Together with the flames, they formed 2 different colored flames, one gold and one silver. You see the silver flames shooting out. That's the immortal tear stone formed when the tear of a mortal spirit fell on the rocks in the depths. You only need to enter the cave and search for the silver flames. You'll find the immortal tear stone. If you're lucky, you might even get a drop of the tear of a mortal spirit. This gold-silver flame mountain is rumored to be an ancient fire-type big goblin that died here. Its corpse was formed by the demonic aura. It's very dangerous inside, such a dangerous volcano. Everyone, search outside. Although our Chamber of Commerce needs this treasure, we don't want to lose everyone's lives for nothing. The immortals of the Chamber of Commerce explained everything about the gold-silver flame mountain clearly in front of everyone before they set out. Then, after everyone was ready, they separated and approached the flaming mountains. Su Fong was inconspicuous among the crowd, and he was also the slowest. He waited until most of the people had entered different flame caves before he chose a cave that only sprayed out fire ash, and not a single trace of silver flame to enter. The fact that there were no silver flames meant that there were no immortal tear stones in the cave. Therefore, this cave without any strong flames didn't attract anyone's attention. When he entered the cave, although the flames weren't strong, the rocks were scalding hot. There was also a thick layer of volcanic ash under his feet. He could see that the walls of the cave were irregular. It was clear that the flames had been shooting out and burning it into all kinds of strange shapes. Several hundred meters into the cave, the flames immediately surged out from the depths. How terrifying! If I didn't have any special methods, a mortal like me would be burned to ashes in an instant. Su Fong stood on the volcanic ash and looked at the flames, flabbergasted. But this place is a treasure trove that can naturally help me upgrade 3 magic treasures. With such flames, I don't have to worry about being unable to refine those origin stones and other materials. In any case, I came here to find a way to obtain the tear of a mortal spirit. It's impossible to obtain it in a short time. Rather than that, I might as well find a place to lay down a formation. I'll fuse all the materials and let the flames burn them. Once I find the tear of a mortal spirit and break through the final tribulation, I'll be able to upgrade 3 magic treasures. After thinking about it, he made up his mind. Seeing a small cave on the left where the flames weren't too fierce, Su Fong dove in. He felt like he would be burned to ashes at any moment. Activating the might of his life-bonded magical treasure, the flaming cloud wings unfurled, and he slowly rose up into the air. Looking around the cave, he didn't see any immortal tear stones or any other treasures. Therefore, he set up an enchantment in one of the caves above, using the flaming cloud spirit gourd as the eye of the spell formation. Then he placed the Black Sea stones, raw stones, and materials into the spell formation. From time to time, the flames would enter the formation. This way, He could temper the fire cloud spirit gourd and also burn various materials. When he returned to his cave, he activated his life treasure's divine power. Unfortunately, he only had one powerful fire attribute big goblin, the fire-tongue goblin. The fire-tongue goblin hadn't become an immortal yet, so it would only be burned to death here. Fortunately, he had the great circle ability. He didn't need to enter the depths of the mountain to sense where there was special spiritual energy in the flames. The special spiritual energy must be released from the tier of immortal spirit stones. He might even be able to find the tier of immortal spirit. The great circle ability was already an amazing ability that the surrounding immortals couldn't have and was envied. In less than 2 hours, he had already sensed a few different types of spiritual chi. He then released the Black Ridge Monster King and had it enter the flames in its true form to quickly seize the treasures. The Wooling Goblin was a rock spirit that had become an immortal. Although it might be burned to ashes in this volcanic area, it wouldn't be in danger as long as it didn't stay in it for a long time. Moreover, it could use the flames to temper its rock body. After a while, the Wooling Goblin returned with hundreds of tier of immortal spirit stones of various sizes. The tier of immortal spirit stones in the western part of Zhejiang were all in a melting state. It felt like the tier of immortal spirit was dropped on a rock and began to melt. The Wooling Goblin suddenly said, "Master, when I came back from the depths of the mountain, I accidentally saw a very strong spiritual energy in the center of the flames. It was very scary. There might be a treasure inside. Maybe it's the tier of immortal spirit. Although it's dangerous, it shouldn't endanger your life. Go in and get it. If it's really the tier of immortal spirit, I can take some to cleanse your body. It's a good treasure to condense an immortal body and strengthen your Tao body." Su Fang guessed that it was the tier of immortal spirit. The spiritual energy was even stronger than the tier of immortal spirit stones. The Wooling Goblin was interested and greedily transformed into its original form. It knew that Su Fang had the ability to quickly recover its energy. It wasn't afraid of anything and went in with a whoosh. After waiting for about 2 hours, the Wooling Goblin's primordial spirit voice suddenly sounded in pain. Su Fang activated the pure yang energy and released the primordial spirit's divine power. It desperately protected the primordial spirit's pure yang energy as it entered the flames. After a while, the Wooling Goblin's entire body was surrounded by flames. It was holding its breath. There should be a treasure in its mouth. When Su Fang extinguished the flames, the latter opened its mouth slightly. Unexpectedly, it swallowed a mouthful of red-hot liquid that was emitting steam. That's right, this was the tier of immortal spirit. There was also a little demonic aura coming out of it. Chapter 897. You've done well this time. Give me the rest. I'll take the rest. As the Wooling Goblin turned into a human, it spat out a seal. Inside, it was a ball of scarlet spirit liquid that was 1 foot large. It took a small portion of it and gave it to the Wooling Goblin. Then, it went to the small cave at the side and came to the front of the hidden array formation. After activating it, the Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd appeared. All big goblins, listen up. Enter the mini-universe Immortal Gourd to cultivate. The gourd is absorbing the essence of the volcano and can bring you more immortal chi. After I become an immortal, I will obtain a lot of treasures to cleanse your marrow and help you become an immortal. After saying that, he took out the mini-universe Immortal Gourd with his left hand. Streams of demonic chi were crazily sucked into it. On the first level of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, there were close to 30,000 big goblin from the small world. Even the undying turtle, Green Feather King, Bai Ling, and Zhu Huang went to the Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd. At that moment, Su Fang continued to hide the mini-universe Immortal Gourd. He sucked the spirit liquid that had been refined into liquid by the flames into the treasure and left the gold-silver flame mountain alone. A few hours later, he carefully came to the edge of the danger zone. He sensed the surroundings. Other than the auras of the immortals who were searching for treasures in the flame mountain, the surrounding area was desolate. There was no sign of life at all. All demonic immortals and slaves protect me in the surroundings. After creating the array formation, he was prepared to undergo the tribulation here. He wanted to become an essence immortal, break through the mortal body, and become a nirvana immortal. Become an immortal. He summoned the dozen big goblin and 14 slaves that were suppressed and ordered them to hide in the desolate area within 3 miles. It was best to release the tribulation aura in his body and let his surging power rise. This place was dozens of miles away from the Flame Mountain. It was desolate and uninhabited. Undergoing the tribulation would not attract the attention of the immortals there. In addition, the shackles around the Flame Mountain were very strong. The immortal's senses could not cover the periphery. With so many demonic immortals and puppets protecting him, Su Fong could safely survive the tribulation, pass the 3 natural disasters, upgrade 3 Dharma treasures, and use the tears of immortal to cleanse his marrow. He could become an essence immortal, a true immortal. After waiting for a while in the array, a large amount of heavenly disaster energy had already gathered in the sky. Su Fong then released the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd, Starry Daylight Sword, and Xianhuang's 6 Paths Pagoda one by one, floating in the air. His body began to burn with tribulation energy flames. The oppressive natural disaster roared and tore through the sky where the heavenly tribulation was covering the sky and the sun. He also prepared the materials he needed to upgrade his magical treasures. In the blink of an eye, he leaped into the air, grabbed the Ghost Fong Chakram, and activated the Silver Moon Immortal Armor. The first Doomsday Calamity suddenly descended. It was still the same collapsing attack method as before. A large area fell, piece by piece, incomparably huge. Break! Activating the Ghost Fong Chakram, the Tao treasure began to spin, flying towards the falling disaster fragments. One strike was enough to tear apart the sky fragments. This was the scene of Su Fong transcending countless tribulations, but he rarely used a magic treasure to transcend the tribulation. This was because the 3 heavenly disasters were different from the past. Su Fong had to use all his strength to shatter them, and then focus his mind to deal with the illusion tribulation. Since he could not avoid the illusion tribulation, he would let it descend. Soon, he was once again trapped in the energy vortex of the heavenly disaster fragments. Thunder roared. All kinds of tribulation wind, tribulation fire, and other powers of ice and fire merged into the vortex. Su Fong seemed to be in the midst of doomsday destruction. This was the true doomsday calamity. It was too shocking. If it were not for Su Fong's strength, he would have already surpassed his current level and was not afraid of the heavenly disaster. If it were any other cultivator, they would not be able to survive this tribulation. In addition, he had 2 Tao treasures, one for attack and one for defense. Su Fong was not afraid of the power of the heavenly disaster at all. Instead, he quietly waited for the illusion tribulation to descend. Unknowingly, after a while, the second heavenly disaster descended. It felt like countless burning meteorites had turned into fragments, falling from the sky. As the vortex churned, it was as if the world was about to be turned upside down. Su Fong continued to control the Ghost Fong 4-sided wheel and continued to kill above. The quality of this Tao treasure was even higher than that of the Heaven Monarch Soul Sword. Su Fong only needed to use a portion of its power to deal with the heavenly disaster that belonged to mortals in the great world. Some tribulation fire burned Su Fong until the tip of his head was covered in flames. He was being burned by the heavenly disaster. However, to Su Fong, it seemed like there was no movement around him. There were only waves of tribulation fire that were twisting and exploding. His body and skin seemed to be covered in flames. Some figures, some afterimages, and some voices appeared in the surroundings from time to time. Swish! Swish! Suddenly, some strange sound appeared. It sounded like the wind blowing the sea of trees, the sound of leaves rubbing against each other, and the sound of collision. Su Fong looked in front of him. In the midst of the flames, there was a flaming tree. Gradually, other trees appeared in the surroundings. It was as if he was in a forest. Have I fallen into the illusion tribulation? Looking around, Su Fong could feel the frightening aura of danger still pressing down on him. He tried to maintain his composure and began to look at the forest around him. It seemed unreal. Su Fong is like that. He thought that our family had resolved the crisis and became our family's hero. We were busy patrolling here, but he was nowhere to be seen all day. Some familiar voices suddenly rang out. Su Fong focused his gaze and suddenly felt that his surroundings should be the purple Qi mountain. Moreover, he saw a beautiful figure appear in the depths of the forest. Beside her was a deep pool. Everything was so familiar. When he saw it clearly, he was beside the pool. The beautiful figure was using water to stroke her hair. Mayer. Su Fong came to the reflection on the water and called out in surprise. Xiao Mei turned around and threw herself into Su Fong's embrace when she saw him. She snorted and said, "I already said that the misunderstanding between us has been resolved. It was Zuan's pavilion that separated us, and you can only find me now. Look, this place is familiar, right? It's the Purple Qi Mountain where you first met me. I know you're tired. If you miss me, you'll definitely come back here. You've recovered your memories." Su Fong hugged Xiao Mei tightly. "That's right. Even though my memories have been erased, over the years, there have always been people talking about our past. As time passed, I began to have memories of the past. I remember that this was the first time we met. This was also the first time a little boy like you saw my living body. We took risks in the palace together. In the end, you got your revenge. We traveled together and left the southern border for the Crimson Firmament continent. You and I went through too many hardships and were separated. Now, we can finally be together. You have also become the overlord of the Star River. From now on, everything belongs to you and me. We will never be separated, okay? I still remember your nosebleed appearance. I was still a child then. How could I see a girl all of a sudden? A girl what? A body. A naked body. Does my body look good? Yes, yes. Then take a look again." Xiao Mei suddenly struggled out of Su Fong's embrace. Her cheeks were as red as an apple, and her eyebrows were flushed red. She actually appeared in the pool in a flash. "You come down too." She waved her hand, and the water splashed onto Su Fong's body. He also entered and saw Xiao Mei taking off her clothes one by one, revealing her jade white and flushed shoulders. Then, with a plop, he sank into the water alone. "Mayer, wait for me." His mind was filled with Xiao Mei. Su Fong also plunged into the water, causing a splash. Su Fong looked around, but did not see Xiao Mei's shadow. Goo goo goo. Suddenly, a pair of warm, silky hands hugged Su Fong from behind, and her lips were already pressed against his. Su Fong's hands couldn't help but grab onto her elastic skin, and with the owner of these hands, they hugged each other and slowly sank into the depths of the pool. However, Su Fong's original body was in the middle of the heavenly tribulation. His will was controlling the Ghost Fong wheel to deal with the collapsing natural disaster, as well as all kinds of tribulation lightning and tribulation fire. But suddenly, the silver moon immortal armor on his body lost its immortal light, and even the Ghost Fong wheel's attack power weakened. What's wrong? Su Fong lay down and floated in the middle of the natural disaster vortex. Even his aura was collapsing. Some of the natural disaster's power sizzled and whooshed over, hitting his body and tearing his skin apart. Buzz! Then, even more natural disaster's power was about to devour Su Fong. At this moment of life and death, from between Su Fong's eyebrows, an aura of destiny suddenly surged out. That aura of destiny turned into a large number of Dao runes, which condensed into the shadow of Su Fong. Heaven's secret life shrinking technique. This was what Su Fong believed to be the peerless ability of the 9 suns, 9 transformations. It was unknown if Su Fong had activated the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique himself, or if it was something else. In short, the Su Fong formed by the Dao runes faintly chanted some Dao runes and surged into Su Fong's head. Dong! Sinking into the depths of the pool, he tightly hugged his warm body. To Su Fong, it was as if the other party was made of cotton. It gave him a warmth he had never felt before. However, in the pool above, a stone-like object suddenly hit the surface of the water, causing a crisp sound of falling into the water. It also set off a circle of ripples, which began to form waves of water. Brother Fong, am I not good enough? Didn't you always dream of killing your way into the Zuanth pavilion with me? Didn't you want to be with me? Suddenly, Su Fong heard the voice and saw the water ripples. His expression changed. However, the power that hugged him and gave him warmth was going to continue to bring him into the depths of the pool. Buzz, buzz. From the water ripples on the surface of the water, Dao runes suddenly surged out. Su Fong's confused and blurry eyes were almost covered by a soft power. However, at this moment, Su Fong suddenly grabbed at the Dao runes with his hand. Chi! The confusion and loss in his eyes suddenly burned. He saw that the person hugging him in front of him was Xiao Mei. She was naked, staring at him with pleading eyes. Su Fong's gaze suddenly sharpened. This is not your mayor, although what I want is like this. But after all, you're not the same as before, no longer the same as the one who walked the same path as me through wind and rain. On the path of cultivation, I have experienced a lot, and those experiences have been deeply engraved in my heart. Mayor, no, you are not mayor. It is just that I miss you so much in my heart, as well as guilt. I am sorry that you have a new life, and from now on, I hope that you will be happy, and I will not force you anymore. If you remember our past, I will definitely be happy, and if you cannot remember, I also hope that you will transform into a brand new self. Chi Xiao Mei, who was hugging him, suddenly turned into flames and immediately turned into dust. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Su Fong's consciousness began to gather. He opened his eyes and found himself lying in the center of the heavenly tribulation vortex. Countless heavenly tribulations had severely injured his body. That was close. The third calamity is about to descend. Starry Daylight Sword, Fire Cloud Spirit Gourd, Xianhuang's Six Paths Pagoda. Dream. No, it was an illusion tribulation. Su Fong sucked in a breath of cold air. His mind was incomparably firm. Then, he waved his hand and grabbed. The three royal grade artifacts floated in the tribulation fire, and the third calamity finally descended, hitting the three royal grade artifacts first. He took out the spirit liquid that he had melted earlier and watched as the tribulation fire attacked the three royal grade artifacts again and again. With a huff, it poured the spirit liquid onto the three royal grade artifacts like water. At this moment, the three artifacts became transparent and burning. Chapter 898. Tears of Immortal Spirits. At the same time, he took out a treasure that could cleanse his body. He wanted to transcend the calamity with the three Dharma treasures, condense an immortal body, and become a peerless immortal. Chi! Chi! At this moment, the tribulation fire and tribulation lightning attacked the three Dharma treasures in a large area. Then, the remaining power passed through the Dharma treasures and attacked Su Fong. This bit of power of the heavenly tribulation was nothing in front of Su Fong. He controlled the tribulation lightning and tribulation fire to burn the three king grade Dharma treasures. The power of the heavenly tribulation was nothing to Su Fong, but to the starry daylight sword, the flaming cloud spirit gourd, and the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, it was incomparable. The three Dharma treasures almost shattered under the power of the heavenly tribulation. They were almost completely evaporated by the tribulation power. The overall strength of the three Dharma treasures was no longer a match for Su Fong. People were alive. In the small world, before stepping into the heavenly road, the three Dharma treasures were more powerful than Su Fong. However, after stepping into the ascension pool, receiving the spirit root baptism, and entering the great world, Su Fong's overall physical hardness and strength surpassed the three Dharma treasures. Therefore, the heavenly tribulation, which was not a threat to Su Fong, was a terrifying disaster to the king grade Dharma treasures. Fortunately, Su Fong controlled the heavenly tribulation. Otherwise, the three Dharma treasures would have been completely evaporated. All kinds of refined materials melted in a liquid, constantly watering the three Dharma treasures and penetrating them layer by layer. Su Fong began to cast seals again, condensing immortal spirit chi and injecting it. He also condensed a shallow immortal formation, which is the most basic and fragile immortal formation, and injected it into the 3 Dharma treasures at the same time. To improve the quality of the Dharma treasures and turn them into Tao artifacts. In addition to various external resources, the internal formation had to be upgraded to the level of an immortal formation. The process was the same as when a cultivator stepped into the ascension pool, absorbed the spirit root, condensed an immortal body, and transformed into an immortal. Immortals also had to upgrade their barriers, cultivation techniques, and strength to the level of the great world. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, the tribulation power in the violent heavenly tribulation vortex seemed to be collapsing. The heavenly tribulation was about to end. Spirit cleanse. He grabbed some spiritual liquid and saw that the tribulation fire and lightning tribulation on the 3 magic treasures were about to recede. He immediately splashed it on them. Chi! A gust of steam and lightning covered the 3 magical equipment, setting off a shockwave that forced Su Fong to retreat. At the same time, his fleshly body began to show signs of shattering and leveling up. He had to surpass 3 natural disasters and step into the virtual immortal realm. Initially, he had to go through the heavenly road and step into the ascension pool before he could reach the immortal realm. However, he had come to this world as a mortal and had already experienced everything. Now, all he had to do was to ascend to the virtual immortal realm and become an immortal that he had always dreamed of. Only by becoming an immortal would he be free from the shackles of this great world. He sat down cross-legged, and 2 figures flashed in his eyes. Li Haojia went to the White Cloud Immortal Palace. He has the same cultivation as me, and his future achievements will be similar to mine. I hope he and the hierarch can become peerless experts in the White Cloud Immortal Palace. This was not an illusion tribulation. Instead, Su Fong thought of Li Haojia and the Lord of 5 Poisons. A shock wave surged out of his body under the influence of a portion of the tribulation power. He felt as if his bones, flesh, and blood were being crushed layer by layer. Tears of Fairy. Su Fong grabbed with his left hand, and a stream of scarlet spiritual liquid was directly sucked into his mouth from his left palm. A second wave of ascension power had already begun to surge in his body. The impurities in the placenta were gushing out of his skin at a speed that could be seen with the naked eye. The Tears of Fairy surged into his mouth. When it came into contact with Su Fongda's perfected body, it was like a piece of ice that instantly melted under the high temperature. It drilled into Su Fong's flesh, blood, meridians, bones, and even true chi. Falling into the calamity vortex was like falling into a furnace, and the Tears of Fairy were like cold water that covered Su Fong's entire body in horror. All the hair on his body stood on end. Su Fong continuously swallowed several immortal pills and some resources that were helpful to his body. Then his body was impacted by the ascension power again and again, and his marrow was cleansed. He swallowed a large amount of resources, and even more impurities surged out of his placenta. It was very frightening. Fortunately, Su Fong saw that his blood essence and true chi were already filled with pure immortal power and immortal spiritual energy. Especially when the ascension power disappeared and his body started to rapidly reconstruct, his bones, blood, and chi were also filled with pure immortal spiritual energy from the great world. Hee, I have finally condensed a true immortal body. Next, my young infant will also transform into a young immortal. His body was facing an unsurprising impact, and his marrow was being cleansed. However, just as he thought of the divine aperture, a wave of ascension power suddenly came from the heavenly calamity vortex. His divine aperture suddenly surged with boundless depth. His young infant suddenly burned inside, and a large amount of essence soul divine power was extracted. The burning immortal aura merged with the immortal aura in his body. There were 2 characteristics when one became an immortal. The physical body became an immortal body. The young infant transformed into a young immortal. Now, both transformations were going on, All this meant that Su Fong would become a virtual immortal soon. Virtual immortal. Now, it was a natural ascension and transformation. Su Fong himself could not control this power. He wanted to see what important aspects he needed to master when he reached the first immortal realm. Currently, he only knew that once he stepped into the ascension pool and entered the great world, he would be a virtual immortal. After that, there would be even more powerful spirit immortals. However, he did not know what was different about the virtual immortal. Soon, he had a true understanding of the essence soul from many books. The virtual immortal was the first realm in the great world. It mainly condensed the essence of heaven and earth, which was essence chi, and cultivated the immortal body and immortal power in the body. The virtual immortal was a huge realm. Just like the other realms in the great world, it was divided into 9 steps. It was called the Jiuquan Dao realm. For example, when one first stepped into the virtual immortal realm, one would be at the first stage of the virtual immortal realm. After that, one would continue to break through and step into the second stage, third stage, fourth stage, fifth stage, sixth stage, seventh stage, eighth stage, and ninth stage. After stepping into the ninth stage, one could step into another realm, the spirit immortal, also known as the perfected immortal. The spirit immortal was naturally 100 times stronger than the virtual immortal. The difference was similar to the difference between a child and an adult. The virtual immortal realm was divided into the Jiuquan Dao realm. It was divided into 9 steps. Every realm had an obvious symbol, which was Dao marks. They were similar to the marks in the mortal realm. Dao marks would appear in the golden core and divine aperture. Once a virtual immortal activated his essence soul, quintessential chi, or mystical abilities, he could easily see how many Dao marks appeared in his body. From there, he could tell which mystic realm he was in. First stage of the virtual immortal realm. Since this is the first mystic realm step, so what? With my strength, I was restricted everywhere in the great world before I became an immortal. However, now that I am a virtual immortal, I am not restricted by the great world. My strength can be displayed. I can deal with 6 or 7 Dao realm experts as a first stage immortal. Xinhuang's 6-path pagoda is about to become a Dao body. Once I step into the virtual immortal realm and become an immortal, I will have an intrinsic Dharma treasure. There are probably not many of them in the great world. I can completely activate my fire elemental intrinsic divine power and return to the gold-silver flame mountain. I can obtain a large amount of immortal spirit tears and immortal tear stones. I can make many big goblins stronger and transform into a demon immortal in an extremely short time. As he continued to cleanse his marrow and condense his immortal body, Su Fong, who was in the midst of a crazy transformation, regained the domineering smile that he had when he was in the small world, when he had a clear grasp of the virtual immortal realm. Unknowingly, the tribulation aura suddenly disappeared. The sky calmed down and returned to its cold and desolate state. However, Su Fong's skin, eyes, and even a strand of his hair was filled with pure immortal light. An immortal. He was no longer immortal. The divine power he released came from the shackles of this land. It was very different from before the tribulation transcendence. There was only a little bit of the shackles. He could activate his mystical powers and fly freely. However, he still had to cultivate properly, but not in these desolate ruins. He put the demon immortals and slaves into his Dharma treasures. He looked at the 3 familiar Dharma treasures that had been upgraded to Dao artifacts and swallowed them into his body. He flew into the air and rushed towards the gold-silver flame mountain. In just half an hour, he returned to the gold-silver flame mountain. The experts of the Chamber of Commerce were activating their immortal talismans. They were anxious for the immortals. Su Fong did not need to go with them. He crushed the immortal talisman and entered the flame cave abode. He came to the top of a very secret cave and cast an immortal array in the cave. Then, he released the demon immortals and slaves and set up an immortal array in another cave. He placed the small universe immortal pot and nearly 30,000 demon immortals into the 2 immortal arrays. It was a spectacular sight. No one would have thought that a mere flame cave would have so many big goblins. Fortunately, this was the Flame Mountain. The natural burning power would easily burn the demon chi around the cave. No one would be able to sense the big goblin's aura unless they were very close. In addition, the Flame Mountain itself had some demon chi. It could hide tens of thousands of big goblins. Everyone cultivate here, especially those who have not reached the demon immortal realm. I will go into the volcano and look for the tears of a mortal spirit. When I come back, you can all begin to build your immortal body. After leaving the cave, the undying tortoise, Green Feather King, and Bai Ling followed. The other slaves and Big Goblin were absorbing spiritual chi and cultivating in the two immortal arrays. Su Fong did not need to Wooling Goblin. He was now an immortal. He immediately activated his natal treasure, the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. The Six Paths Pagoda was a Tao treasure. Naturally, it would not be burned to ashes by the flames. Under Su Fong's mystique, they were surrounded by fire mystiques. The Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda had fused with the Silver Moon Immortal Armor's defensive layer. The four of them immediately floated into the flames. The sensing range of a perfected immortal's ability was 10 times greater than when he was immortal. Therefore, he could clearly sense the flames within a mile of the Flame Mountain. And the flames were indeed powerful. They burned the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda until it was boiling hot. It was constantly sizzling. If this continued, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda would probably be incinerated. Fortunately, he was very fast. When he sensed an aura, he released his control power and grabbed a large number of immortal tear stones from the flames. He was also attracted by a special kind of spiritual chi. When they reached the depths of the flames, they saw a cliff that seemed to be formed from the bones of a giant monster. From the cracks of the bones, silver liquid would occasionally drip down. Immortal tear stones. Not only were there immortal tear stones, but there was also a strong demonic aura coming from the bone-like cliff. Su Fong released the mini heaven and earth immortal pot and began to absorb the sparse immortal spirit tears. I reckon that this gold-silver flame mountain really was formed from the body of a fallen greater demon. This greater world is even more inconceivable than a lesser world. The creation of all things can form such a dangerous place. Don't fall over. Hee, there are so many little demons waiting to become immortals. And these immortal tear stones will be of great help to us. Bai Ling smiled as he watched the mini-universe immortal pot absorb the immortal tear stones. About 2 hours later, Su Fong had to leave. Some of the immortal arrays inside the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda had already started to disperse. In another hour, the Six Paths Pagoda would be reduced to ruins. After flying out and entering the two immortal arrays, Su Fong did something that even immortals above the spirit immortal realm were shocked. He actually started to distribute the immortal tear stones in front of tens of thousands of big goblin. Su Fong was not stingy at all when a big goblin received 3 immortal tears. Even the dozen or so immortal demons and slaves suppressed in the greater world were watching this scene. In the end, even they received a portion of the immortal tears. This was Su Fong's promise to them. If they followed him, they would get whatever they wanted. They would all pursue the great Tao together and become the strongest immortal. Chapter 899. As the big goblin's strength increased, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda strength would be augmented. Since the Six Paths Pagoda was Su Fong's intrinsic Dharma treasure, it would naturally increase his overall strength. The big goblins fused with the tear of immortal spirit in the immortal array and absorbed the immortal power of the great world. The undying turtle, Green Feather King, and Bai Ling's strength increased at a terrifying rate. All of them were special existences. Bai Ling was the most ordinary spirit crane. She was not a special existence like the Vermilion Emperor, the Undying Turtle, or the Green Feather King. However, she had accidentally obtained the inheritance of the Chaos Heavenly Lord and possessed the Chaos Ring. She had already surpassed all the big goblin. Even Su Fong felt ashamed of her strength. The Vermilion Emperor, the sky-piercing demon Venerable, the 9-headed demon king, the 9-segment Earth Dragon, the brute force demon king, and the Wuling goblin were also improving in strength. They were gradually surpassing the low-level demon immortals of the great world, especially the Vermilion Emperor. Its strength was now comparable to the Green Feather King, the Undying Turtle, and Bailing. Its strength would probably reach a terrifying level soon. The dozen or so slaves had also obtained the tier of Immortal Spirit. Although it was not of much help to spirit immortals like them, they could feel that under Su Fang's control, they would no longer have to be slaves. When Su Fang and the big goblin were cultivating, they split up and hid in the flame cave to protect them. Dao marks. I don't have a golden core. There are obvious Dao marks in my divine aperture and golden core origin. After an unknown period of time, Su Fang had been sitting cross-legged in the immortal array, absorbing the special immortal spirit chi of the gold and silver flame mountain. The Xianwang's 6 Paths Pagoda's quality was constantly improving. His own cultivation was also transforming step by step. The Heavenly Demon Book, Divine Emperor Divine Essence Scripture, Limitless Tao Art, Illusory Fire Cloud, Ethereal Truth, 9 Yang 9 Transformations, and Heavenly Secret Life Shrinking Technique were all different from the small world. After reaching the immortal state and cultivating these cultivation techniques, it was obvious that they were very different from before. After cultivation, the golden core origin in his dantian would form traces of the golden core. These were Dao marks. The Dao marks. There were also Dao marks outside the divine aperture, which intertwined with each other like a barrier protecting the divine aperture. It was obvious that a single Dao mark had created such a marvelous phenomenon. This was the phenomenon of the 9 Daos mystic realm when one reached the virtual immortal realm. It made it easier for immortals to grasp the changes in their realm. The Heaven Devil Codex hasn't changed much in the greater world. Only the Heaven Devil Unsealing Seal can still be cultivated as a young immortal. The limitless Taoist magic and the Sage Emperor God origin scripture can still be cultivated, but they can't compare to the miraculous aspects of the lesser world. No, Yang Qi said, it would be a pity to eliminate them. Why don't we combine them with the true scripture of Misty? That way, we'll be able to cultivate the quintessence of the 3 great energy arts. I cultivated a lot of divine abilities in the lesser world. Now that I've reached immortal ascension, it feels like countless streams converging into a huge river. It feels like cultivating energy arts isn't about quantity, but about quality. The true scripture of Misty, the 9 Yang 9 transformations, the illusory fire cloud, and the heavenly workings life-shortening art aren't part of the lesser world. Now that I'm an immortal, I can truly cultivate them and combine them. The Tao of Emperors is one of the 3,000 great Taos, and I already have a shocking amount of the energy of Emperors inside of me. In the future, I'll need to find the Sage Emperor Transcendence's God origin scripture. Great Taos. That was a legend. It was said that there were 3,000 great Taos, and if a cultivator could master even one of them, they could look down on all creation. Flesh Embryo God Armor. All of a sudden, immortal designs appeared on his skin. They were immortal designs, not true designs. After becoming a virtual immortal, Su Fang was filled with immortal power, as well as the anima destiny blood energy from the greater world. Therefore, it was only natural that his defenses were at the level of immortal designs. A dark red Taoist robe appeared, which was the most basic form of defense a cultivator could have without magical treasures. Although he had the silver moon immortal armor, the flesh embryo god armor was the most important protective item for a cultivator. The Xianwang's 6 Paths Pagoda, the starry daylight sword, and the flaming cloud spirit gourd have all become Tao artifacts. Although they are low-grade Tao artifacts, I have long been able to use them freely. In the future, as my strength breaks through, their quality will also improve. After a long time, he entered the 3 magical treasures. The space inside the magical treasures had become several times larger and more solid. They were also filled with immortal chi. Although they could not compare to Tao artifacts like the Ghost Fong four-sided wheel or even the small universe immortal pot, The three great Tao artifacts would continue to improve as Su Fong cultivated. In the future, they would definitely surpass other magical treasures. He then checked the Yang Immortal. The Yang Immortal was the Yang Infant, which was also the entirety of the Essence Soul. In the past, it was an illusory human figure. Now it had immortal designs, and it had a real and solid form. This was the Yang Immortal, a cultivator's second life. Domain. Suddenly, with a thought, a distorted power shot out from his eyes. A 100 feet wide immortal aura field suddenly formed around Su Fong. In this aura field, he could control everything. Even if this was the fire cave, no force could penetrate this aura field. This was the domain created by the transformation of the god form. After the domain was created, one could have absolute control over the space controlled by the domain. It would be very useful when dealing with powerful enemies or when cultivating. Su Fong's entire body had surpassed the mortal world. He was now a real immortal. Then, he entered the depths of the 15 Yang Meridians and saw the most wonderful world fragment. The world fragment, the golden lotus stone flower, was still surrounded by the 5 halos of galaxies. It seemed that after coming to the great world, the world fragment did not have any obvious changes. It was just that the 5 halos of galaxies were replaced by the immortal aura. The world fragment was absorbing the power of the world, which contained the immortal chi of the great world. Swish, suddenly, the sea of Yang Meridians that was cultivating in the 9 changes of the 9 suns suddenly gave off a shocking aura. It formed a lightning bolt. Su Fong was shocked. He immediately went outside the Yang Meridians. Now, at the rightmost edge of the 15 Yang Meridians, the 16th Yang Meridian that was in the process of forming was turning into a jade-like color and burning with real flames. What a coincidence! When I become an immortal, the 16th Yang Meridian will also be successfully formed. This way, my overall strength will transform again. He was so happy that he almost cried. When he needed strength the most, the 16th Yang Meridian had appeared unexpectedly. In fact, everything was logical. After coming to the great world and transforming into a virtual immortal with the body of an immortal, everything in his body would change greatly. Su Fong had absorbed a lot of world power in the great world. This transformation would also bring about a great change to his pure yang energy. The birth of the 16 Yang Meridians was also a matter of course. After becoming an immortal and cultivating the 9 changes of the 9 suns, the pure yang energy was far greater than in the small world. Therefore, in the future, the formation of the yang meridians and cultivation techniques would change greatly. Su Fong began to use the 9 changes of the 9 suns to form the 16th yang meridian. Waves of tsunami-like sounds made the yang meridian even more like a jade meridian. It was not until half a year later that the 16th yang meridian calmed down and began to form the 17th yang meridian. Since I've decided to go to the constellation of 9 heavens to cultivate, I have to start fusing with the Tao seal left behind by Huangfu Hua Ying and cultivate the 9 heavenly stars small phase art. Then, once I enter the constellation of 9 heavens, I can start cultivating. It's a cultivation faction called the White Cloud Immortal Palace. Suddenly, an immortal talisman appeared in Su Fong's hand. The words White Cloud were vivid and lifelike. This was a treasure left behind by the White Cloud Immortal Lord when he accidentally met him back then. It should have been taken away by the mysterious woman, but it was left in his hands. He also thought of Li Haojia and the Lord of 5 Poisons. After a long time, he put away the unnecessary thoughts. He took out a Xianguang. Inside it was a fist-sized seal. This was the Tao seal from Huangfu Huaying. It was an existence condensed from the essence of her life, cultivation, life marks, and essence. He sensed the Tao seal slightly. Indeed, it contained a certain amount of world power. It was much stronger than the immortal spirit Qi in the great world. He immediately released his domain and began to pour a large amount of will into it. All the immortal patterns and immortal seals in the Tao seal began to fuse with his will. Some of the essence of true Qi also began to be absorbed by Su Fong's palms. And in the deepest part of the Tao seal, there were some immortal words. They were also the last words that Huang Fu Dao Seal wanted to say. For example, the 9 heavenly stars small phase art that was left behind was only an introductory mental cultivation method. To cultivate the real cultivation method, such as going to the constellation of 9 heavens and becoming a disciple. Another example was the fellow disciple who killed him. His name was Huang Fu Shaoyue, and he was from the same family as him. However, Huang Fu Shaoyue was a concubine's son. His status in the Huang Fu family was not high, but he was still a talented cultivator. Relying on his own efforts, he became an official disciple in the constellation of 9 heavens and became stronger step by step. Huang Fu Huaying had never imagined that he would be killed by a fellow disciple while out training. Huang Fu Shaoyue is that young cultivator who controlled a dozen experts to search for Huang Fu Huaying in the abyss, right? A face and a person suddenly condensed in his eyes. Su Fang had already met Huang Fu Shaoyue once. In the immortal words that Huang Fu Huaying had left behind, he had not asked Su Fang to take revenge for him. But Su Fang could still sense the resentment and unwillingness in the Dao Seal. Who would be willing to die like this? Huang Fu Huaying, thank you for guiding me to the constellation of 9 heavens. I will definitely find the higher-ups of the Huang Fu family so that you can die in peace. As for that Huang Fu Shaoyue, he should also pay the price for murdering his clansmen. After absorbing all the immortal words, Su Fang began to comprehend the introductory mental cultivation method for the constellation of 9 heavens. The basic cultivation method of this mental cultivation method was actually like eating qi in the mortal world. Eating qi was a simple way to cultivate qi. The 9 heavenly stars minor art was mainly to absorb the essence of the world. How could immortals absorb the world's energy? Naturally, there was a way. Cultivating the 9 heavenly stars minor art did not have high requirements for the physical body. There were many ways to cultivate it. If a cultivator had a background, it would be easy to get started. If an ordinary disciple did not have a background, there was only one way to cultivate it. Let the physical body face the stars and slowly absorb the world's energy through eating qi. Over time, it would take at least 100 years to 1,000 years to open a bridge between the physical body and the world, allowing the world's energy to enter the physical body. That was eating qi. Cultivating the 9 heavenly stars minor art was not easy. Ordinary disciples would have to spend 1,000 years just eating qi. And after 1,000 years, even if they could eat qi, they would not be able to casually devour the world's energy. They would have to settle it step by step and form special divine apertures, golden cores, and so on. It would probably take close to 10,000 years for a disciple to truly get started and cultivate the 9 heavenly stars minor art. Tempering. This was Su Fang's most direct understanding of the 9 heavenly stars minor art. This cultivation method was actually similar to Su Fang's cultivation of the ethereal truth and the world fragment. Generally speaking, it was to use the world's essence to temper the physical body. After that, one would use the physical body to temper the world's essence, forming a bridge between the physical body and the world. Only then could one truly absorb the world's essence through the cultivation method. The world's essence did not exist wantonly in the stars. It was a primordial chaos that contained many complex forces. Cultivators would absorb these forces into their bodies, temper them, and cultivate according to the cultivation method. Only then could they absorb the insignificant world's energy. Chapter 900. It turned out that cultivating the power of the world in the constellation of 9 heavens was also not easy. It was a thorny path filled with challenges, difficulties, and dangers. During this time, he and Law were also discussing the 9 heavenly stars minor art. Law suddenly praised Shuiyu. With your current fusion of world fragments, you've already surpassed virtual immortals, spirit immortals, and even more immortals. I reckon that there aren't many people in the constellation of 9 heavens who can control world fragments. Those immortals who have world fragments are either proud sons of the heavens, phoenixes in the clouds, or peerless experts in the great world. Is that so? This made Su Fong puzzled. There aren't many world fragments in the first place. There are so many immortals. Out of 10,000 immortals, it's already not bad for one to obtain a world fragment. And this is just obtaining a world fragment. This immortal needs at least tens of thousands of years of cultivation to fuse with the world fragment. If his aptitude isn't good enough, he won't be able to fuse with the world fragment even after 100,000 years. Think about it. How difficult is it to cultivate a world fragment? More importantly, not only is it difficult to obtain a world fragment, but to fuse with this treasure is even more difficult. Many cultivators spend their entire lives without being able to fuse with a world fragment. In the constellation of 9 heavens, the immortals who can fuse with world fragments a little are probably the upper echelons and elites of the factions. You already understand the profoundness of world fragments. Therefore, you can cultivate world fragments in a mortal world. It's too high. Many immortals only start cultivating world fragments after they become experts. Lam muttered a long sigh, as if he had suddenly become a chatterbox. Su Fong asked again, "How's the 9 heavenly stars minor art?" It's considered a mid-tier cultivation technique in the boundless great world. It's only mid-tier. The world is very big. It's a great world. Naturally, there are more immortals that you haven't come into contact with, as well as those mysterious and ancient spacetimes outside the realm. For example, the Demon Realm, and other factions that you will encounter in the future are all very terrifying existences. Demon Realm, that was too far away. He had never heard of it in the small world. It was only when he came to the large world and met Law that he knew what the true demon race was. Luo Chia smiled. If you can become an expert in the constellation of 9 heavens, you'll be able to perfectly control a world fragment. Then you'll be able to go to even more powerful space-time continuums. Those space-time continuums have many ancient powers, and any one of them is a terrifying existence. You should first understand the constellation of 9 heavens. Then you'll realize just how big the world is. Since the great world is so boundless, I will cultivate in peace. I will take it one step at a time. At the same time, I will also obtain the violet Chi Dharma spirit and become stronger with my friends. I also believe that I will truly understand the vastness and boundlessness of this great world. Confidence. Every word that came from Su Fong was filled with stubbornness. This was self-confidence and recognition of one's own perseverance. He continued to cultivate for another 10 years. 10 years later, Su Fong and the Big Goblin's overall strength had doubled. Although they had yet to break through to the Wundao virtual immortal realm, their strength was far greater than before. Apart from Green Feather King and Bai Ling, the other Big Goblin and slaves returned to their Dharma treasures. Stepping on the starry daylight sword, he brought Green Feather King and Bai Ling out of the gold-silver flame mountain. Merchant Alliance, do you think that I, Su Fong, am an ant? I have to thank you for accidentally allowing me to come to this gold-silver flame mountain. Not only did I become an immortal, but I also upgraded my 3 Dao artifacts. After flying out of this ruined space in the void, Su Fong directly flew towards the corrosive water extreme land. To get to the constellation of 9 heavens, he had to pass through that extreme land. Moreover, he also had to purchase some immortal pills. On this trip to the constellation of 9 heavens, he had to pass through many dangerous areas in the void. After stepping into the corrosive water extreme land and seeing the city again, Su Fong sneered coldly. After entering the city, he found an ordinary merchant alliance and began to sell immortal tier stones in large quantities. He also traded some resources that he did not need for the time being. In this way, he planned to use most of his resources to buy 100,000 immortal essence pills. Immortal essence pills were the immortal pills that Su Fong usually took. In the Great Realm, immortal essence pills were like currency that circulated everywhere. However, high-grade immortal essence pills were very precious. Immortal essence pills could condense immortal power for immortals and strengthen their foundation. The effect was equivalent to the pure essence pills of the small realm. If I can refine impotence pills in the Great Realm, I can't. A pill refinement Tao artifact is ridiculously expensive. I can only get one pill refinement Tao artifact if I take out 100 Tao artifacts. Forget it. When I get to the constellation of 9 heavens and slowly strengthen my foundation, I will buy a pill refinement Tao artifact and refine pills in the Great Realm. This way, I won't be restricted everywhere. He stayed for a few days. After obtaining a large amount of resources, enough for him to head to the 9 Heavens Astral Palace, he left the corrosive water danger zone with King Greenfeather and Bai Ling. He flew on his sword towards the deep void in front of the Yuan Fortune Great World and the immortal Ao Great World. The Spirit 6 Immortal Realm. The huge immortal city was filled with immortals. The immortal realm was so prosperous and luxurious that it was impossible to see the ends of the immortal city with the naked eye. A few extraordinary immortal palaces floated above the city. These immortal palaces were places that only the major figures of the Spirit 6 Immortal Realm could have. Suddenly, 3 people flew over from above the countless immortal palaces. They were Immortal Master Lung Xin, Jing Yuan, and the white-robed immortal from the Tranquil Emperor's estate. The white-robed immortal glanced at Immortal Master Lung Xin. Where are the others? I already gave the order for them to gather above the immortal city. My lord, if we go down a bit, we'll be able to meet up with them. Immortal Master Lung Xin respectfully replied. The 3 of them were travel-worn as they flew towards the ground. Fortunately, the white-robed immortal seemed to have a powerful divine ability. In the sky, the 3 of them were practically transparent. My lord, we received some information about Su Fang's whereabouts in the Soul Capital Extreme Land, but we suddenly lost contact. It won't be easy to find him. Don't worry, he won't just disappear like that. He's probably in the Spirit 6 Immortal Realm or in the surrounding immortal realms. We have to find him even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground. In the sky, the 3 of them talk from time to time. It could be seen how much the white-robed immortal wanted to find Su Fang. Clang! Clang! Suddenly, just as the 3 of them arrived in the sky, more than 100 immortals on the ground and in the sky were about to fly up. Suddenly, they were stopped by a barrier. Moreover, a large number of experts appear from the barrier and stop these people from flying up. The sky is a forbidden area. According to the immortal city's rules, only people with immortal badges can enter the forbidden area. A large number of immortals appeared in the sky above the ground. They were all wearing immortal armor and looked very impressive. One of them was an extraordinary immortal who stopped the immortals below from flying up. My lord, at this moment, both sides were in a deadlock. Suddenly, the immortals below knelt in the sky. This scene attracted the attention of the immortals passing by the city. They seem to have some background. The immortals above the barrier seemed to realize something when they saw the immortals kneeling and the 3 immortals in front of them. It was Immortal Master Lung Xin, Jing Yuan, and the white-robed immortal. The white-robed immortal waved his hand, and all the immortals below stood up. He took Immortal Master Lung Xin and Jing Yuan and slowly flew up in the sky. The immortal controlling the barrier didn't dare to say anything. The white-robed immortal cupped his fists to the immortals. I'm a messenger of the Tranquility Emperor's residence. I would like to see the city lord of your city. Please inform him. The Tranquility Emperor's residence. Some of the generals sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard this. The Tranquility Emperor's residence. It was a powerful force that was famous in the great world. Although this was the Spirit 6 Immortal Realm, it was just one of the countless immortal realms in the Yuan Great World. Although it was very powerful, the Tranquility Emperor's residence wasn't weak either. Wait a moment. Some of them quickly sent out their immortal seals. Jing Yuan looked at Immortal Master Lung Xin. It's just the Spirit 6 Immortal Realm. Does it really think it's something? If the Tranquility Emperor's residence gets angry, even the Realm Lord of the Immortal Realm will have to be polite. It's not just polite, it's extremely polite and respectful. Although the Realm Lord of the Immortal Realm has a high status and is an emperor, our Supreme Tranquility Emperor is the Immortal Emperor who surpassed the immortal emperor. The realm lord of a small, immortal realm naturally has to be respectful. Immortal Master Lung Exen snorted and secretly said to the white-robed immortal, "Lord, for mere Su Fong, we directly revealed our identities and used the supreme power of the Tranquility Emperor's residence. We'll definitely capture that Su Fong. This matter has just started to surface. Before the secret of the ethereal Taoist Heart Sutra is spread to the other great immortal realms, we have to find that person first." Rumor has it that the human emperor suddenly comprehended the ethereal true scripture and caused a huge commotion in the great world. That Su Fong obtained the human emperor's inheritance. If he accidentally causes the ethereal true scripture to cause a huge commotion while cultivating, then everyone will know the secret of the ethereal true scripture. The white-robed immortal suddenly looked at the sky. "No need to wait. Let's go." He was truly valiant. Leading the two of them and the experts below, the white-robed immortal flattened the barrier with a shake of his tiger body and arrogantly flew into the sky. No one could stop them. It looked like a river of stars, but it was actually an outer realm in the void. The outer realm was far away from the great world. There were also substances, but most of them were natural destructive forces, such as ice, fire, and lightning. At this moment, the three of them slowly flew through the snow-filled world. There was a sky, but there was no ground. Instead, there was a large amount of broken stones and other substances, including snowflakes and ice, floating in the void. It was like this for many years, never melting. Squeak! The world was so cold that Green Feather King, Bai Ling, and Su Fong's teeth kept chattering. Their bodies had already formed an ice robe. It had been more than 20 years. They had never stopped to rest. Ever since they left the corrosive water extreme land, they had passed through many different outer realms. Fortunately, they had a large number of immortal pills to consume from time to time. In addition, they had been cultivating the power of the world, so they could still absorb some of the world's spiritual energy from time to time. Bai Ling was listless. Is it still far away? Su Fong helplessly took out a map and compared it. He was pleasantly surprised. There's another dangerous place ahead. It's very similar to the gold-silver flame mountain. It's called the illusory snow field. After passing through there will be no more danger. We can fly quickly and reach the outer realm ruins where the constellation of 9 heavens is in 5 years. The illusory snow field. There was another dangerous place. As they continued on their way, Su Fong saw in the books he had collected in the corrosive water extreme land that the illusory snow field could be considered a training ground for the constellation of 9 heavens. Overall, reaching the illusory snow field was equivalent to entering the constellation of 9 heavens territory. Another 3 years passed without stopping in the snowy void. Suddenly, a huge icicle floating in the snowstorm appeared in front of the three of them. It was a frozen substance. Illusory snow field. Looking at the storm and the frozen rocks and impurities around them, they saw a dreamlike world of ice and snow in front of them. The cold must be amazing. We have to be more careful. We'll probably consume more spiritual energy if we enter there. Moreover, there are many demon beasts, demon immortals, and monsters living in the illusory snow field. I think you should enter the magic treasure. It's more convenient for me to travel alone. Su Fong said to Bai Ling and Green Feather King. The two had no objections. Although they were stronger than Su Fong, their ability to control the world was far from enough. If they traveled together here, it would waste a lot of Su Fong's spiritual energy. Chapter 901. Su Fong stepped onto the illusory snow ground with his starry daylight soared as a gust of wind blew past him. There was ice and snow in front of him, under his feet, and all around him. Some were granules, while some were fist-sized icicles. His aura was shaking. If he didn't have the starry daylight sword, he would only be able to walk. He couldn't see how deep the illusory snow ground was. He could only see snow and ice and whirlpools. Su Fong flew at a low altitude on the starry daylight sword, and all he saw were white ice ridges. His protective Taoist robe would shatter from time to time, either due to the Korean currents or ice shards. Fortunately, he had the Silver Moon Immortal armor to protect him, so it wasn't much of a threat. As he went deeper into the snow ground, he found that the cold air here was even more terrifying. Moreover, the sky was frozen into ice curtains from time to time. It was as if this snow ground was about to be frozen. This was probably why it was called the illusory snow ground. Such a large area was constantly frozen. Although it was shattered, it was still a great hindrance to Su Fong. Sometimes, the front would be frozen, and he would have to go around it. However, after a while, the other direction would also be frozen, and ice walls would form everywhere. Soon, he couldn't tell which direction was which. Fortunately, he had a supreme sensing ability. Through the different auras in the air and hearing the direction of the airflow in the air, he could roughly tell where he was. Su Fong had never seen such a terrifying freezing power. It could freeze a large area of the sky in an instant. It was really terrifying. Cultivators were also in danger of being frozen. No wonder this place was called a dangerous place. Dangerous places weren't as dangerous places, wastelands, or plain abyss, but they were still enough to kill cultivators. In the end, Su Fong chose to walk on the ground. This way, he could cleverly avoid the threat of being frozen in the air, but it would waste even more vital energy. Skeletons. Several days later, he still couldn't see the edge of the snow ground. Su Fong had just arrived at a ravine between two ice ridges to find a place to rest when he found a few skeletons under the ice. There was no flesh and blood. He didn't know how long they had been dead. They didn't look ferocious at all. Instead, they looked like a natural painting. After a while, he found an ice cave. It didn't look like it was naturally formed. It was also a good thing that he had a place to stay and rest for a while. If he continued on his journey, it would be too oppressive on his body and mind. In the ice cave, Su Fong used an immortal formation. He felt that it was too cold, and his aura was constantly frozen. He immediately used his fire immortal runes to form a fire immortal formation. He burned faintly in the immortal formation and also activated the fire immortal might of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. In this way, the cold air was blocked. Creak, creak. During the break, she didn't know what sound it was, but it seemed to be crawling around Su Fong's ears. When he took a look, he was truly shocked. He hurriedly put away the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. It turned out that some spiders had crawled out of the ice rock on his left. These spiders were about the length of a man's hand. They looked white and lustrous, but in fact, they carried a shocking amount of poisonous gas. They constantly corroded the ice layer and crawled out of the ice seal. At the same time, he immediately shot out poisonous ice threads at Su Fong. Fortunately, after Su Fong discovered them, he felt that these spiders were not simple. When he attacked, half of his foot was already in the air. He brushed past the ice threads and flew out of the ice cave. Those ice threads were like sharp swords, hitting the ice rock with a sizzling sound. They were very powerful. After Su Fong left the ice cave, he suddenly felt that the ice cave was suddenly rumbling nonstop. He actually saw a large number of frozen spiders crawling out of it. He hurriedly used his sword to escape this place. Fortunately, it was a close call. In the wind and snow, a snowstorm was set off, moving freely above the ice ridge. A few days later, Su Fong flew slowly at a low altitude, looking at the still white world. Didn't they say that this place is very close to the constellation of 9 heavens, and that there are disciples training here? Why can't I see anyone after so long? In the snowstorm, Su Fong advanced alone, without any signs of life. He didn't know what response the resentment brought, but he suddenly heard the sound of a sword piercing through the void in front of him. It came from the ice ridge of a mountain. Unfortunately, there was a snowstorm. Otherwise, he could have heard it more clearly with his great perfection stage ability. An hour later, he passed the ice peak. In front of him was a canyon. The canyon was indescribable. Because there was a countercurrent storm, it formed a countercurrent snowstorm waterfall. It was rising from the canyon against the sky. He didn't know what kind of power formed it. Just as he was feeling strange, a wave of perception force sounded, and he immediately formed a seal. A wave of true chi that contained starlight permeated the surroundings. What a strong world aura and the true chi of the nine heavens stars small phase art. It seems that there is something different in this canyon. Maybe there are also disciples of the constellation of nine heavens. It turned out that it was the perception force that contained the power of the world that made him feel that there was a unique world aura in the canyon. It was not natural, as if it had been condensed, and it was a strong aura that surpassed nature. It also contained the special true chi that came from the constellation of nine heavens. The legend was true. This dangerous place was indeed a training ground for the disciples of the constellation of nine heavens. He curiously came to the edge of the canyon. Just as he poked his head out, he heard a familiar aura. When he looked down, it was actually a wave of ice spiders. He didn't know what kind of power they were attacking in the canyon. The ice spiders that he had encountered before were nothing compared to this. They were too terrifying. Fortunately, the canyon was big enough, and there weren't many ice spiders in other places. When he saw the countercurrent waterfall, he felt that the power formed from the depths of the canyon contained a very special world aura for some reason. He curiously spent some time in front of the waterfall to take a look. This waterfall was formed by a large amount of snowstorm and ice shards. From afar, it looked like a waterfall. What a strange natural landscape. It was this countercurrent snowstorm waterfall that made him feel that it contained a very rare world aura that seemed to be obtained through cultivation. Could it be that there was really a mystery in this canyon? Whoosh! Just as he was attracted by the snowstorm waterfall, from the other side of the canyon, where the ice spiders were, a deafening sword sound suddenly shot out. Then, when he looked over, 5 immortals with starry robes were being chased by ice spiders. Fortunately, these immortals' sword control speed was quite shocking, and they gradually escaped the spider wave's pursuit. Disciples of the constellation of nine heavens. He really bumped into them. However, these disciples' cultivation wasn't weak, but they weren't a match for those ice spiders. It seemed that this illusory snow ground was far more dangerous than he imagined. I just want to know why this snowstorm waterfall contains the world aura. After waiting for a while, he saw those ice spiders calming down. They actually quickly froze into an ice mountain. What a perfect disguise. No wonder the ice would attract them. These spiders were always sleeping in the snow. Su Fong still jumped into the canyon. The canyon's cold air was slightly less terrifying, and he could find a place to rest. He also realized that this canyon was very vast. There were many cracked ice caves and ice paths inside. It felt like an underground ice world. Releasing his perception, he actually clearly felt some true chi that contained the world's aura rising from the depths of the canyon. Clearly, there were some disciples of the constellation of nine heavens below this canyon. It wasn't just the 5 of them. He hid his aura even more perfectly and went to the depths of the snowstorm waterfall. Looking at the bottom of the canyon, there was an ice cave with many cracks. This aura that was rising in reverse came from the ice cave, and the aura could shatter a low-grade Tao artifact. Moreover, there was an even more intense world aura in the depths of the ice cave. There was probably some treasure. After searching for a while, he found a hidden ice path. It was man-made and very secretive. It was built in a cracked cave at the bottom of the canyon. When he went deeper, he felt that there was an astonishing amount of true chi of the stars in this ice path. Clearly, this ice path was left behind by the immortals of the constellation of nine heavens. It contained a mystery. Tut tut. Suddenly, he felt some vibrations from the ice path. It was very strong. At first, he thought it was a snowstorm, but when he went deeper, he heard the collision of magical treasures and the sound of demonic aura. After a dozen breaths, he came to a crack. On the other side was a large number of ice caves. Outside the ice caves, there were more than a dozen disciples of the constellation of nine heavens. They were working together to attack a huge snow-white spider that was shackled and sealed. It was only now that he understood that the depths of this storm should be a training ground of the constellation of nine heavens. Otherwise, with the strength of the sealed spider, it couldn't leave the crack even if it was attacked. It was sealed in this snow abyss. Su Fong entered other natural ice belts. From the ice caves, he found a few sealed big goblin. Almost all of them were disciples of the constellation of 9 heavens. Next, he found more. Some of the abyss didn't have big goblin, but there were some ice puppets and formations. There were probably thousands of disciples cultivating here. The world aura is getting more and more shocking. It turned out that the illusory snow wasteland really was a training ground of the constellation of 9 heavens. Su Fong planned to leave. However, he felt that the countercurrent airflow contained an even stronger world aura than before. Out of curiosity, he continued to explore the depths of the ice caves. Under the layers of ice caverns, he suddenly found a huge ice chain. The chain had fused with the ice and seemed to be formed naturally. However, Su Fong saw that there were some true runes inside. They were cultivation seals from the constellation of 9 heavens. This was a seal created by a powerhouse. Suddenly, he frowned. As the chain extended, there was an ice sword that was intertwined with a large number of ice runes. It was this ice sword that emitted an astonishing world aura. It even came from a constellation of 9 heavens. This was a treasure. After carefully sensing it, he found that the ice sword contained the constellation of 9 heavens' true chi. It was 100 times more abundant than the world aura he had cultivated for many years. If he took down this ice sword and fused with its power, wouldn't he be able to step into the spirit immortal realm from the essence immortal realm in just 100 years? Let's see what this sealing chain is suppressing first. There are also 2 world auras in 2 different directions. There should be 2 more sealing chains. Suppressing the ecstasy in his heart, he sneaked into the depths of the ice cave. As he expected, there was an ice altar 1,000 meters deep in the ice cave. A sealing chain lay there. Even if Su Fong used the Ghost Fong 4-sided chakram, he wouldn't be able to break this chain. In the depths of the triangular ice cave, he found a 3rd sealing ice altar. There were 3 sealing chains and 3 sealing ice swords. Su Fong carefully approached the center. His consciousness entered the blood jade. Luo, what kind of existence do you think is sealed below? I feel that these 3 seals are very powerful. The one who left these seals is a powerhouse. A powerhouse. He didn't expect Luo to call him a powerhouse. Luo smiled. This person's cultivation is considered a true powerhouse in the great world. In the constellation of 9 heavens, he must have a high status. There is no one guarding this seal. The constellation of 9 heavens is very confident that no one can break this seal. You can go in and take a look. With this seal, you won't be in danger as long as the immortals above don't notice. Chapter 902. With Luo's words, Su Fong no longer had any scruples. If there was no danger, of course he had to go in and take a look. Following the ice chain seal, he moved forward cautiously, almost at the speed of walking. He found that the ice chain seal was naturally integrated with the illusory snow. Was it natural? Absolutely not. This was the master who left the seal in the snow. His cultivation had reached an unimaginable height, and he had integrated his supernatural powers with the snow, making the seal even stronger. Combined with the power of nature, he suppressed some of the substances within. Such a large formation had reached the level of the creation of heaven and earth. Using the sealing power that contained the power of the world, he controlled all the forces near the snow abyss. The power of the world fused with various substances, making the seal even more perfect and solid. The ice chain under his feet revealed the astonishing power of the essence of the 9 heavens stars minor art. If he could absorb the power of the 3 ice chains, it would be impossible for it not to be powerful. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, he finally saw the seal. The substances inside the seal were all floating in the air, and they had all turned into ice cubes. These floating substances were moving slowly, and their speed was not fast. Looking into the depths of the seal, he still could not see what was inside. Su Fong still had some, but considering how powerful the seal was, the substance or power inside should not be dangerous to him. He took another step into the seal, and, as he expected, the seal area had amazing shackles. After taking one step, he could not easily take a second step. The shackles were so amazing. But he found that these shackles came from the power of the world and the essential chi essence of the nine heavens stars minor art. Didn't he also have this power in his body? He immediately activated the entry technique of the nine heavens stars minor art. The essence of the seal from Huangfu Huaying's inheritance began to circulate from the golden elixir of origin and immediately revealed itself. There was also the shackles of the world's divine power. This was even easier to handle. He activated the world fragment golden lotus stone flower, and in an instant, the shackles of the world's divine power from the seal and the power of the nine heaven stars minor art were absorbed by Su Fong bit by bit, thus controlling the absorption rate. Then he released the domain. In this way, his domain also formed the same power as the seal, and he could actually walk step by step. The heavens are helping me. Now I understand why this seal is so powerful, but there is no master guarding it. Su Fong's eyes flashed with surprise and pride. He pinched the tip of his nose and continued to look into the depths of the seal. This sealing barrier was indeed powerful, but there were no experts guarding it, nor were there any special defensive methods. What if someone entered this place? Of course, it wasn't easy to enter the barrier. First, one had to be a disciple of the constellation of nine heavens. They had to possess the same level of power to be able to step into the seal. Secondly, this sealed world was filled with the power of the world shackles. If one did not possess the power of the world shackles, they would not be able to enter. Combining these two factors, it could be concluded that only powerhouses from the constellation of nine heavens could enter. Moreover, they had to be peerless powerhouses who had grasped the power of the world. Hence, with such an exceptional formation, the constellation of nine heavens did not have to worry at all that there would be experts who would destroy the seal. In addition, the illusory snowland was very close to the constellation palace. Who would dare to act impudently here? Perhaps the constellation of nine heavens had issued a decree to the disciples who came here to train, forbidding anyone from entering the snow abyss. Thus, it was only natural that no one would come to the sealed abyss. This sealing barrier is very powerful. The snowstorm waterfall above might have a lot to do with this sealing formation. Step by step, he walked on the ground of the seal and looked at the various ice substances floating above. He thought of the ice spider. If that thing was in the ice, it would be very dangerous. Whoosh! Some cold currents quietly swept across the sealed world, causing the floating substances to move faster. However, at this moment, a pair of white eyes actually peeked out from a large amount of ice that was about 10 feet tall. The more intense the gaze became, the more one could vaguely make out a human figure within the ice. It's been so many years. The voice of an extremely young female primordial spirit came out from the ice. No cultivator has ever been able to come here. I didn't expect that after 100,000 years, a disciple of the constellation of nine heavens with such a low cultivation would come here. Regardless of whether it was the voice or the gaze, Su Fong did not detect it. The female voice suddenly carried a hint of resentment. Constellation of nine heavens, you have sealed me here for almost 100,000 years. This illusory snow abyss is your territory, and no outsider can come here. However, among the countless disciples, there will always be a few who are brave and have extraordinary abilities. Today is the day that I, Dai Yi, will be free. I have been secretly resisting the barrier here for so many years. It's time. Soul encirclement technique. The white eyes that seeped out from the ice suddenly became like rays of sunlight. Along with the cold currents, they started to cover the area where Su Fong was. There was not much movement, only the air currents were moving. Gradually, Su Fong, who was walking on the ground as if she was walking on thin ice, also had some subtle white light in her eyes. After a dozen breaths of time, a pair of white eyes appeared in the middle of the moving mass of ice. The pair of eyes stared straight at Su Fong. So you came here to get the 3 sealed mysterious sword talismans left behind by Outyin Chanhen. Indeed, 3 mysterious sword talismans? They were personally sealed by Outyin Chanhen. With his cultivation level, how could he use 3 mysterious sword talismans? After trapping me for almost 100,000 years. He must be very powerful and have limitless powers. Only then would he be able to lure a mere virtual, immortal first Tao realm disciple here. Star Palace, out Yin Chanhen. No matter how much you calculated, you would not have expected a nameless and ordinary disciple to come here. Although I am sealed and cannot use many supernatural powers, my talent will not be sealed. Dream Vowel. Hiss from the ice. There was some distorted primordial spirit, sounds that were not voices. They cover the ground densely. After walking for so long, why have I still walked out of the snowfield? Could it be that there is such a snowfield space in the depths of the sealed barrier? Walking on the cold and barren ground, Su Fong did not see bare rocks. Instead, he was in a huge snowfield with a storm. Just as he was puzzled, he suddenly saw an ice altar standing in front of him under the blizzard. From the ice altar, Su Fong could feel the intense world essence chi that made him come here. He sped up towards the ice altar. It would be best if he could get the treasure. If he could not, he would leave immediately. After all, he was only one step away from the constellation of 9 heavens. When he arrived at the ice altar, his attention was attracted by the 3 ice swords that were less than a foot long amidst the large number of seals. These 3 ice swords were similar to the ice swords from the sealing chains, except that they were slightly shorter. Because of these 3 ice swords, the entire spell altar began to emit powerful quintessence energy, as well as the quintessence energy of the 9 heavens palace. It was on the verge of being revealed. Haha, no matter what is sealed in this abyss, I will absorb this energy and become stronger first. With my cultivation level, I can't absorb much, and I can't take away the ice swords. I also won't cause much damage to the seal barrier. As long as the seal is still there, the constellation of 9 heavens won't notice anything. Otherwise, I will be in big trouble. With such an opportunity to increase his strength, how could he not seize it? It was the same thought that any man would have when he saw a naked woman. He immediately came to the top of the ice altar and sat down cross-legged. He used the 9 suns, 9 transformations, and activated the Xianhuang 6 paths pagoda at the same time. He began to absorb the vital energy essence of the astral palace, as well as the world essence chi. I didn't expect this kid to be so clear-headed and not be blinded by greed. He didn't take the 3 mysterious sword talismans. This will consume more of my energy. Outside the ice altar, it was not the snowy plains that Su Fong saw, because the snowy plains did not exist. A block of ice was floating not far from the ice altar and Su Fong. The ice altar really existed, but the snowy plains were not real. Su Fong did not notice the block of ice that was only a few feet away from him. The white eyes of the block of ice suddenly shot out a white demonic aura, which slowly enveloped Su Fong. The latter was still sitting cross-legged, absorbing the energy of the ice altar as though he had lost his soul. The female voice said slowly, "Kid, I, Dai, will grant you your wish this time. Since I was only able to escape through you, I naturally have to give you some benefits. Although I'm not a human, I'm not as ruthless as the big goblin or the devil race." After that, an even more shocking white demonic aura shot out from the block of ice. On the ice altar, Su Fong was still on the ice altar in the snowy plains. Moreover, he was absorbing the world essence chi of the constellation of 9 heavens faster and faster. He was about to reach the peak of the first Tao virtual immortal realm. Moreover, he was absorbing this energy into the Xianhuang 6 paths pagoda, allowing the big goblin to absorb it crazily. There were also the slaves. Su Fong's overall strength had reached the peak. Absorb it. Absorb it with all your might. The seal is getting weaker. Coupled with my 100,000 years of resistance, it is about to break. The white demonic aura of the block of ice formed a pair of clear eyes. One could even see the lines of the eyebrows. Pew pew, about 3 days had passed. Suddenly, the sealed space around the block of ice began to vibrate. Crack, crack. The block of ice began to crack. Then, a large amount of ice began to peel off. A young woman in blue clothes appeared. She was about 18 or 19 years old, but she had white hair. Although her hair was white, it was soft and smooth like water. The woman had a delicate oval face. There was charm in her exquisite features. She had broken free from the ice. However, there were still layers of seals on her in the sealed space. The Xian Guang seemed to still be shackled by the seal. 100,000 years ago, you, Ao Tian Chong Hen, sealed me here heartlessly. You would have never thought that it was a disciple of Star Palace who let me out. From then on, I will kill every disciple of Star Palace that I see until you appear. The woman's eyes were white. Even her eyeballs were white. Faint resentment seemed to be burning in her eyes. She took a few steps to the side of Su Fong, who was absorbing the ice. She smiled coldly and suddenly formed a seal. Su Fong, who was sitting with his legs crossed, could not control himself. He revealed a terrified expression. However, he still slapped the 3 ice swords with his hands like a puppet. Boom! From Su Fong's power, an even more shocking white demonic aura merged with his power and hit the 3 ice swords together. The ice swords were blown away, and the entire ice block started to break. What is going on? It seems like I have fallen into a hallucination. When the ice block broke, Su Fong came back to his senses and shivered. He seemed to have sensed something. When he turned his body, the mysterious woman suddenly tapped on his back. A white seal tied him up. I still got into trouble. Only then did he understand what was going on. Especially when he saw the white-eyed woman. He knew that he was no match for her. You didn't get into trouble. You just saved me. I will not treat you unfairly. The mysterious white-eyed woman suddenly grabbed Su Fong. The seal above them began to collapse. Even the ice caverns, rocks, and chunks of ice were losing their gravity and collapsing. A large area fell, and from the looks of it, it was going to bury the 2 of them here.